Good evening and welcome to tonight's Candidate Forum on KWN-TV. I'm Chris Goforth and I'll be moderating tonight's event. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and thank all the staff and the employees here at the Dade County Public Library for allowing this forum to take place. Dade County and the state of Georgia will hold a general primary and nonpartisan general election on May 22nd. If you intend to vote in this election, you will need to be registered to do so by April the 24th. Advanced voting and in-person absentee voting for this election begins on Monday, April the 30th, with mandatory Saturday voting date on May the 12th. If you need to register to vote or have questions concerning anything throughout the election process, contact the Dade County Election Office at 706-657-8170. Both the Republican and Democratic primaries are taking place in this cycle. There are candidates representing both parties that are in tonight's event. A little about the races this time around in Dade County. There are contested races for seats on the Dade County School Board in District 1 and District 2, as well as contested races for seats on the Dade County Board of Commissioners, also District 1 and District 2. The Georgia State House of Representatives District 1 seat is contested this time, and we'll hear from those candidates during this broadcast. Georgia State Senator Jeff Mullis is running unopposed for the 53rd District seat. The only nonpartisan contested races in this cycle will be for a judgeship in the Superior Court of Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. It's between Melissa Heiss and incumbent Judge Ralph Van Pelt. We'll hear from both later in the program as well. Also on the ballot in Dade County will be a question regarding the passage of a special purpose local option sales tax, specifically for transportation. It's called T-Splost. And we'll hear from people on both sides of that issue as well. So let's take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll begin tonight's event with candidates from the office of Dade County School Board District 1 from the Dade County Public Library. This is Decision 2018 on KWN-TV.
Looking for a great way to change your look? You'll find the friendly professionals at A Classy Cut Salon ready to care for you. A Classy Cut Salon is in the Grove Shopping Center next to the Dollar General. We serve men and women of all ages at A Classy Cut Salon. Call 657-5607. That's 657-5607 for an appointment, or just walk right in for your next classy cut from A Classy Cut Salon in the Grove Shopping Center, Highway 11 North in Trenton.
When you or a loved one is facing a life-limiting illness, hospice care may be the answer. At Tapestry Hospice, the patient is the focus of our care. We are here to serve you and facilitate your wishes. Tapestry caregivers are concerned with managing your pain, keeping you in touch with your physician, and helping you make plans for the future. Hospice is life-affirming, and Tapestry Hospice can help you deal with all aspects of life, mind, body, and soul. Call Tapestry Hospice for more information. 706-383-8812. That's 706-383-8812. Tapestry Hospice. Redefining hope.
A small bank with big service. Citizens Bank and Trust, offering a wide range of services including online banking. Pay your bills, manage your account anytime, 24 hours a day. Your account balance is only a phone call away as well at 657-1234. Or visit our convenient locations. Lookout Mountain, Georgia, Higdon, Alabama, or our main branch on Highway 11 in Trenton. Citizens Bank and Trust, 657-5678. A community bank that believes in the community. Citizens Bank and Trust. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Decision 2018 on KWN-TV. I'm Chris Goforth. We'll begin tonight's event with the candidates for Dade County School Board District 1. They are Cindy Shaw, the incumbent, running as a Republican, Daniel Case, also running as a Republican, and Ronald Baldwin, running as a Democrat. Thank you all for being here. We'll give each candidate now 2 minutes for some opening comments. Let's begin with Ms. Shaw.
Thank you. My name is Cindy Shaw. I'm your current District 1 School Board representative. I've been on the board for 5 years. It's been a pleasure to be on the board. It's been nice to feel like I've made a positive contribution to my community by being on the board. In my opinion, the board has three main duties: to hire the superintendent, to create policy, and approve the budget. We have hired Dr. Jen Harris. She's been our superintendent for 2 years. She's doing a wonderful job. She's continually making improvements to our system. I believe the changes that she has made have been positive. With good leadership, we will see good results in our school system. Our policies have been revised recently. Our budget in the past 2 years has gone from a $600,000 deficit budget to a $100,000 deficit budget. $100,000 is still a huge amount, I know, but I'm very optimistic with careful use of our funds. This next year, we'll have a balanced budget, as we should have. Our budget should be balanced every year, and that's what we're projecting for the next year. I myself am a fiscal conservative. My belief is that as an elected official, we should be more careful with taxpayer dollars than we are our own. Safety is another big issue right now. Safety is paramount. And after safety, we have to focus on education, and extracurricular activities are also a wonderful thing that our school provides.
Thank you. Mr. Case.
Yes, my name is Daniel Case. I've lived in Dade County for my whole life. Was born and raised just 2 blocks over from here. I currently am the owner and manager of Case Hardware. The reason I'm running for a school board is not that they've done a bad job. I agree with Cindy on a lot of the things that they've made better. I think the leadership they've put in place is phenomenal. I'm pretty proud of the job they've done. I really want to see what I can do good for our community. 4 years ago, I wanted to run. I was in the middle of building a hardware store down on Highway 11, and it just wasn't good timing for me. My wife and I had gone to a graduation at Fort Payne High School, a friend of ours, and we watched a lot of students walk across the stage with scholarships. It bothered me when I came back to my own community and realized that not that many scholarships, or as many scholarships, have been handed out or helped attained by our current administrators. Not saying that the ones that are in there now are doing a fine job, but I would like to see more things like that handled better in our community. I think there are a lot of kids here that are qualified for college, qualified to do great things, and they kind of get missed sometimes. I would like to see and what I can do to help make sure that they've got a fair shake at a career at life, and for those that can't or that aren't cut out for college, I know trade schools, trade skills are an important thing, and they pay very well. And I'd like to see us be able to help those students get into there. My wife is a teacher, and I have 2 students in the school, and so I do have a unique perspective from both sides with the administration and with my children in the classroom as well.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Mr. Baldwin?
I would like to thank you for having me here. I'm Ronald Baldwin, and even though all my 50 years have been spent here in Dade County, I am admittedly an outsider when it comes to local politics. I actually, however, embrace the title. Now, if you like things as they currently are in our school system, I'm definitely not the candidate for you. But if you've ever felt slighted or otherwise prejudiced against by the school system, then I'm the only logical choice for this board seat. There are parents and children in this county that have been biased against by this school system for any host of unfair reasons. Maybe your last name's wrong. Maybe you're the wrong religion to suit them. Maybe you fall into the wrong income bracket, just to name a few examples. If any of this refers to you, then I'm the candidate for you. It is clear we need change on this school board. If you re-elect Ms. Shaw, you will be perpetually mired in the past. I want to concentrate my efforts on helping the poor. A vote for me would finally give them a voice. But you have to help me help you by registering and electing me your District 1 board member. Now, in closing, I'd like to quote Yogi Berra by saying, Ms. Shaw, Mr. Case, it ain't over till it's over. And in this particular election, it ain't over till November. Not May, November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin. Just a reminder to our candidates, you'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Let's begin. School safety is at the forefront. In discussion, the Dade County School Board has taken steps to place a school resource officer in every school. Do you feel the school board has done enough, or do they need to continue their efforts? Please explain your answer. Mrs. Shaw, we'll begin with you.
We have done a lot for school safety. I don't know if we can ever do enough. safety is paramount. It really is. We have placed 276 cameras in the schools. We also have the keypads at the schools, and how that came about was I just happened to take a trip to North Sand Mountain High School, and they had keypads out there, and we had been talking about safety. Came back and told Ms. Swader about those, and I said, is that something that we could utilize? So she either went out or sent someone out to look at that, and so we adopted the keypads, and I think those have worked very well. I'm so happy now that we have also placed a resource officer in each school. I know that gives me comfort, and I think that probably comforts a lot of parents too.
Mr. Case?
I agree with Ms. Shaw that I don't know that there's enough you can do for safety. Given the recent events across the country with shootings and things like that, it definitely raises people's awareness to what the potential is for our students. With my wife as a teacher, we've discussed many times ways to try to combat if there were an issue like that in our school, and I'm not sure that there's a real good way. I mean, it's a tragedy either way. The school board has done an excellent job in putting in the keypads. I know they work well. Anytime I visit the schools, you have to be buzzed in. I think it's a great idea. I would like to see, and I'm not sure how to do it necessarily. Hopefully that's something we can figure out down the road, but I would like to see our middle school with a little bit better security. The trouble with that campus is it's cut up, and it's a tough place to provide 100% security, especially when they're having to move from classroom to class or from building to building. So it presents another set of issues, I guess you'd say. But the educating the students, educating the teachers. I am on the high school council, and we've discussed recently the protocol that's in place for the teachers when they have students in their classroom. And I'm not going to get into all the details because part of that needs to be stay between the teachers and the administration, just so that their way of letting each other know that all the students are accounted for and safe. I think that needs to be kind of private. But nonetheless, they have put together some excellent ways to at least notify and be aware of any situations that come up. I know that recently some issues did come up at the high school. The students were real good about reporting it properly. The school staff handled it very well and provided a good resolution to it.
Mr. Baldwin?
I've got to admit I'm impressed. I went over to the high school, and the security is wonderful. And it's hard to believe, but a lot of these bigger cities don't even have security like we do. The only thing I do want to say about this is, yes, it's great. The sheriff's department's been good and everything, but I want to say there for a minute they were talking about, not here necessarily, but the possibility of arming teachers, and that's the most ludicrous idea ever. You don't solve the problem by putting more guns in. The weapons should be only in the hands of trained law enforcement, but otherwise they've done a real good job.
Mr. Case, we'll begin with you with our next question. What are your thoughts on possibly arming teachers and or school employees who are willing to take additional firearm training?
Wow. It's a touchy subject. Like he said, some people see it as ludicrous. I myself am I'm licensed to, or I have a carry permit, carry a gun in my business. Let's put it like this. If there were a time that we were going to arm teachers, I agree with him 100%. They would need to be trained as any other law enforcement officer. I don't know that that's the answer. There's a lot that has to go into that, a lot of different variables that play into it. I don't think every teacher, I do see a lot of cartoons that show teachers shoot and say, did I get him? No, but you killed 4 students, and I think that's pretty childish to put out there as well, simply because to put a gun in every teacher's hand would be silly. Not everyone's qualified. Not everybody in here is a police officer for that reason. They go through special training. So if it came to that, with proper training and vetting, that would be the only way it would be an option. I'm not going to say yes or no that I'm for it necessarily. I guess I'd have to see how they plan on implementing it. Would be the best way to look at it.
Mr. Baldwin.
As I said, I think it's craziness. I think that there needs to be more gun control. I think background checks need to to be done better. We're checking mental history, and it should take longer. At the rate we're going, heck, in 20 years, it's going to be like the Old West, you know? Maybe metal detectors and more security things, but don't give more guns. Don't put more guns out there. There's no teacher should be going qualifying to shoot a gun. Anyone?
Mrs. Shaw.
As a school board, we have met with the Sheriff's Department, and we work very closely with them. We would look to them, I think, for advisement if they thought that that would be a safe thing for us to do and a wise thing for us to do. And the principal thought it was too, then I would be fine with that. But again, I think that we would need to look to law enforcement for their recommendation.
Several parents at a recent meeting had asked school administrators to think about metal detectors at the school. What are your thoughts about this? We'll begin with you, Mr. Baldwin.
Metal detectors, great idea. I totally agree with it if it was within budget. I don't know how that goes, but if we could afford it, yes, there needs to be metal detectors in all the schools.
Ms. Shaw?
I think metal detectors are fine. Anything that we can do to improve school safety, I'm in favor of. Something that I had not thought of before, that when I was discussing this with someone, that they said, and I thought, well, you're really right. If it took a while for the students to enter the school because of the metal detectors, and there was a long line out into the parking lot, then, maybe that would be a target. The people that are standing in line to get through on the metal detectors, maybe they would be a target. I don't know absolutely what the answer is, but if we researched and we thought that was a viable option, then it would be fine with me.
Mr. Case?
I was at that meeting along with Ms. Shaw, and I know there were some valid arguments as to why we should put them in. There were as many valid arguments as to why we couldn't afford it. For the most part, the financial burden it would put on the school is a huge issue. I agree that I was a little taken back when that was actually brought up. How much is my child's safety worth? And so I don't like that answer with budget being the issue. There's got to be a way to protect the students, to protect each entrance. That being said, metal detectors at other schools, and I've talked to other administrators at other schools that were there at that meeting that night, and they said they've tried that at their schools before, and it was, like she said, it was more of a roadblock that potentially presented a bigger target. There's a lot that goes into it. I do think that we ought to have them put in, especially at the high school and possibly the middle school. The elementary school is a little bit easier to protect given the way it's laid out. But yeah, I think it'd be an option. It should be an option, provided it doesn't bankrupt us.
Ms. Shaw, we'll begin with you with this question. 70% of property taxes in Dade County go to the operation of the school system. Is there enough money currently being spent on education in Dade County, or should there be additional money made available? And please explain.
I think there is enough money right now. Like I said, Dr. Harris is our superintendent. She's doing a great job. And what she has done with the school system as far as employment, when she came, we were, I believe we were paying like 93% of our budget was going to salaries. And it should actually be between, I believe it's 87 and 90%. She's brought that down now to 91%. We were overstaffed. And she is pretty creative in doing some things. So like I said, next year I believe that we should have a balanced budget. I see no reason that we need any additional money. The county's been very generous as far as voting SPLOST in continually. We're able to use that money. Well, one thing that we could use that money on would be the metal detectors. We can't use that money for salaries, but supplies, books, Chromebooks that we've bought recently, 1,600 Chromebooks. We take advantage of the SPLOST tax, and it goes a long way in helping our students.
Mr. Case?
I would say, I guess we do have enough money. I don't know. I'm not on the board. I do know that with my wife being a teacher, I know what her salary is, and it's for the most part based on her education and performance. I have seen Dr. Harris do some cutting, some good, some bad, to help fix the budget. I don't see it, especially in the elementary school where I am more often just simply because my wife is there. Many cuts that can be made. I know the teachers have quite a few kids in their classroom, and to one teacher, and it does affect the amount of attention you can give to certain students. I don't know where you could fund the school better. I haven't seen the numbers. What I do know is I pay a lot of property tax myself, and I do appreciate how the board and the school systems handled it. I think if I had an opportunity to see the details, I would be able to maybe offer some better avenues to spend said money, whether it's security or whatever. Being a businessman myself, I have to be careful with my own budget. And I know what it is to have a tight budget and still be able to do business, and the school's no different. It's a business just the same. We're in the business of educating students with the funds available, and do what we can with that.
Mr. Baldwin?
Admittedly, I'm not familiar with the budget. I'm not on the board, so I can't give an educated answer on that without looking at it.
Do you feel the school board members with school-age children should have those children attend Dade County schools? Please explain. Mr. Case, we'll begin with you.
It's funny you asked that. When Mr. Tobin was here as a superintendent, and I know that's been a little while back, I was actually one of the parents in a meeting. I told him if I could afford it, my kids wouldn't go to this middle school at the time. It was not, our middle school was not, there were a lot of issues there that my kids had told me about, and as a parent, you want to protect your kids from whatever influential stuff they might see or safety issues that are there. That being said, I am proud of Dade County and Dade County school system. My kids will be in this school. They've been here their whole lives. They'll remain that way. When I said part of the reason for me running was the issue I had with the amount of scholarships that were awarded to different students, and at the time, the lack of work that I felt our counselors were giving to the students. The other side of that is I want Dade County to be the school everyone wants to go to or send their kids to. I've had friends that have pulled their kids out of school for middle school and put them back in our high school. I've had friends and previous board members even that have moved their kids to another school in a neighboring county. I'm not going to blame them for that, but I am going to do the best I can to make sure that people from those same counties want to bring their students to our school.
Mr. Baldwin?
If you don't like our school well enough to send your kids there, I don't see why you would want to be on the board for that school. So, no, I think, yes, if they're going to be on the board and they've got school-age children, they need to be in our schools.
Ms. Shaw?
I have 3 children. All 3 graduated from Dade County High School, as did myself. I know in the past there have been people on the board who haven't always sent their children to Dade County. And I don't think that's for me to say. I think that's their personal decision. I was very happy with the school. My children got a good education. They're all doing well with the education that they got at Dade County. So, but I think it's a personal decision. My personal decision was for my children to go here.
Mr. Baldwin, we'll begin with you for this question. The school board is responsible for setting policy for the school district. If any, what areas do you feel need improvement? And please explain your answer.
I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. The way the board treats people, that's why I'm running in the first place. In 2014, my daughter graduated from Dade County, and it was a year of hell. She went through a hard time. She had lost her mother that year and everything. They need to be more, they didn't give us the time of day because, there's one good board member, and he's not here tonight. So other than that, I mean, I don't know exactly if I'm even answering what you're saying, but I just feel like I've got to say that. I'm running so people like me have a voice.
Mrs. Shaw.
I think that our policies are fine. I can't think of anything right now that I would like to change.
Mr. Case?
Given the policies I know of, seems to be running pretty well. I don't think that some of the issues Mr. Baldwin was talking about are necessarily the board's responsibility either. Some of that falls on to the principals and others. You know, I don't know a situation, but there's only so much the board can do.
Ms. Shaw, we'll begin with you with this question. Do you feel the Dade County Board of Education does enough to make themselves available to the public?
I know that I absolutely do. Anytime that anyone has contacted me with an issue, I've always responded to them. And I'm available all the time. So for myself, I know that I have.
Mr. Case?
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Do you feel the Dade County Board of Education does enough to make themselves available to the public?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've never had any issues getting in touch with any of them with problems I may have had. I hadn't had a lot of problems, honestly. But I don't see that there's ever been a problem, and I'll be glad to give out my cell number. People know me at the store. They can call. If indeed I'm able to get on the board, I'll be available.
Mr. Baldwin?
I'll be available if I'm on the board. And I know I'm coming across as anti-everything, but I don't care. When we were having our problems in 2014, and I know Mr. Case is probably right, that wasn't the board's thing, that was teachers and staff or whatever, but they're the overseer of those. They're in charge of those. So, yeah, I would make myself available and give out my cell number or whatever, but no, they're not. There's only one of them that's available.
In recent years, the Dade County Board of Education passed a resolution giving voters an opportunity to alter the current 65 and 5 tax exemption. The current law shifts the burden of school taxes to those under the age of 65. Are you in favor of keeping the exemption as is, or do you feel it's necessary to modify it? Please explain. Mr. Case, we'll begin with you.
Again, another touchy subject. 65 and 5, my father is able to take advantage of that even at his own place. However, he and I have talked a lot about it. I do think there should be some changes to it. That being said, I'm not saying we should throw it out necessarily. I do understand at 65 years old, chances are you don't have a student in the system. The trouble with those being totally exempt, it puts the tax burden on the young folks that are trying to make a living and trying to raise 2 or 3 kids at a time. And it makes it tough. I'm not here to whine by any means, but I'm telling you from firsthand experience, it makes it tough. I think one change that could be made to it, and I don't know if it's been looked at in the past, is that you should have to live in the community for a certain amount of years. There ought to be a time so that we don't end up being a community that's taking a lot of wealthy folks in moving here just to be tax exempt from the school, to not have to pay that particular tax. I do not understand that what that does, it makes us look like a wealthy county and can affect the funding that we get from the state. Now that's my understanding. I'm not on the school board, so I don't know all the details, but my understanding is that it affects the funds available through grants or whatever to our community. So it can be detrimental. It can cause issues with your other question earlier. Do we have enough money to do what we need to do? But so yes, I think there could be some changes to it. There's a better way to do it. I do agree that at 65 years old, and if you own 5 acres or more of property, however it's laid out, you should have some kind of tax cut to the school system. Absolutely.
Mr. Baldwin?
I think I don't agree with the thing. If you're 80, 90, it don't matter how old you are, there's 25-year-olds that don't have kids. You've got to come up with enough money. So no, I think everybody should have to pay school tax, even if they don't have any kids in there, because these are people that, they should pay it too. I think it should be done away with, whatever.
Ms. Shaw?
I think that our seniors should get a break, although the 65 and 5 that we have here is probably the most generous in the state of Georgia. the voters voted on it, if they would like to go back to it and maybe alter it in some fashion, I would not be opposed to that. The people that moved in here, though, under the 65 and 5, I understand why they would be upset, and if you moved in here under those terms should stand. But, you know, maybe in the future, it could be modified, and that would benefit the school. The state goes by the total digest for the county. They take the first 5 meals. So when you people come in, build their houses, they don't pay anything into the school tax, but they do go on the tax digest, which makes us have a larger tax digest. And then they take the first 5 meals, so then we have to pay more simply because that they've built homes here. And it has hurt our school system.
Mr. Baldwin, we'll begin with you for this question. Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle is running for governor. He is proposing all Georgia public schools move towards having a career academy in each system. What is your opinion about Dade County having a career academy?
I'm not familiar with the term. I haven't heard this, I'll be honest. Are you allowed to tell me what that is?
That is, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that is with the emphasis more on trade-type applications rather than the more vocational applications.
No, leave things as they are. I'm not for that then. Thanks for explaining it.
Ms. Shaw?
I think that would be fine. I think that we do need more vocational, and we have been going more and more toward that. Originally, I was for charter school. I thought that charter school would be a very good idea. One reason is because we would be getting, it would have been a couple $100,000 more a year had we gone with charter, which would immensely help the budget. And there would have been more public participation, parents, business leaders, community. There would have been a lot more community involvement when you have a charter. So, I'm in favor of that.
Mr. Case?
I'm not necessarily sure how a charter school works, but I do agree with the Career Academy simply because there are a lot of folks that, given the way they were raised, their financial situation can't quite cut college or even their academic situation, but they're excellent workers and can learn some trade skills and do great. I had an employee that when he found out that he could make just as much as a welder as some folks with a master's degree, he was tickled pink. He gets to spend a year in college and work as a welder. It's something he was proud of, and I was very glad that he goes to a different school system than this one, but I was very glad that they were able to help him get signed up for that, and he'll be attending that next fall. But I think trade skills sometimes get overlooked. We push, I am a fan of getting scholarships for the students. I would like for my kids to go to college. That being said, there's some fine folks that never went to college per se and have made a very good career. My father-in-law, I'm not sure that he went to college or not, but what I do know is he's made an excellent career and retired from combustion. As a matter of fact, we have a man on our school board that retired from combustion. And jobs like that are typically built from folks with trade skills. So a career academy that would serve the students in that way, absolutely.
If elected or reelected, do you feel you understand the role you will play as a member of the Board of Education? Mrs. Shaw, we'll begin with you.
I do. I'm on there, so yes, I do.
Mr. Case?
Ask again, I'm sorry.
If elected, do you feel you understand the role you will play as a member of the Board of Education?
Absolutely. I just in watching how they've handled it and the actual decisions that they're able to make or oversee, I guess you would say. I think I've got what it takes.
Mr. Baldwin?
Yeah, I sit in on meetings, and I know they've got a lot of stuff, budgets and a lot of stuff they have to do. I think I understand. I think I understand what it takes.
We'll begin with Mr. Case with this question. What assurances do the voters have that you will serve the higher goals for truthful and honest education opposed to alleged politically manipulated curriculum and ethics?
I guess the best answer is for that is a lot of these folks know me. They've done business with my family for years. They know how I was brought up. They know my Christian values. I am a Christian. And even tonight, I may have offended some of you, but I'm standing here telling you the truth. And I hate politics. This is not how I saw this going. But, it's I don't think for any decisions for the school system to be made politically charged. I mean, we're trying to do what's right for the kids and for the teachers to make sure the kids get the best possible education, that when they reach college, they're not having to take remedial classes, they're educated properly, and that the teachers are compensated for it. I know there are a lot of schools that they can't hardly find teachers because the pay's not enough. I'm not saying necessarily that Dade County's got enough or not. I'm not saying that. I'm just, I think, well, I guess that's it.
Mr. Baldwin?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What assurances do the voters have that you will serve the higher goals for truthful and honest education as opposed to alleged political manipulated curriculum and ethics?
The people who know me, and I don't know a whole lot of people know me, but they know that I'm honest, and I would be there for them. I'm running so that a group of people who are never heard will have a chance. But, so I'm going to be there, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to have the students in mind when I make decisions. So, I can only say that. I hope they believe me.
Mrs. Shaw?
By being on the board, I would hope that people could see the way that I have served with honesty and integrity.
We'll give each candidate 1 minute now for a closing statement. We'll go in reverse order. Mr. Baldwin, we'll begin with you.
I know a lot of people don't know me, and I know I appear as anti-everything, and that's whatever. But I want to serve on the school board. I've wanted to serve in public office since I was 4 years old, and I've not had the opportunity yet. I want people who feel like they aren't comfortable enough that can be able to come to the board and speak. The problem is the people I'm trying to appeal to don't vote a lot of times. But I'll tell you what, win or lose, I'll be here every 4 years, because for 6 months, every 4 years, those people will have a voice, and that voice will be me. But don't underestimate me, folks. It ain't over till it's over, and this one's going all the way to November, and I plan to take office.
Mr. Case?
Like I said before, my intentions are to help our system, to teach these kids, to make sure they're getting the best education they can possibly get. I run my business with integrity. I run my life with integrity. I shoot people straight. There's some people that don't like me for that, but at least you'll know where I stand. When you bring an issue to me, even in my business, I handle it the best way possible. I try to accommodate people best I can, provided it's ethical. I think I'd be a good candidate just because I do have a heart for it. I have a heart for the students. I have a heart for the teachers. I have a heart for this community, or I wouldn't be here doing business, I promise you.
Ms. Shaw?
The reason that we educate our children is to prepare them for life, and our goal needs to be to give them the tools to succeed after high school. We want our students here in Dade to be prepared whether they go on to higher education or immediately start in the workforce. As your school board representative, I've worked hard, and I've done so with the best interest of the students, faculty, and the community at heart. I believe that I've served with integrity, and if I'm reelected, I'll continue to do so.
Again, thanks to each of you for participating and for being here this evening. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll have more. This time we'll have the candidates for Dade County School Board District 2 as Decision 2018 continues on KWN-TV.
Citizens Tri-County Bank, the only community bank Marion Countyans will ever need. At 402 North Cedar Avenue in South Pittsburgh, 4765 Main Street in Jasper, and at 14087 Highway 28 in Whitwell. Providing the highest standard of customer services with a personal touch. Our associates can help you with personal loans, personal lines of credit, a variety of mortgage loans, and more. And we offer real-time internet banking too. See us in South Pittsburgh, Jasper, and Whitwell today. Citizens Tri-County Bank, the only community bank Marion Countyans will ever need. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. The Moore family name has built a legacy of trust, compassion, and peace of mind by standing with families during time of loss. Now in our 70th year, the Moore family commitment grows even stronger, from affordable, traditional services to cremation. Our experienced staff stands ready to follow through on you and your family's wishes. Since 1945, the Moore family of funeral homes, North Sand Mountain and Trenton, always dedicated to those we serve.
Rising Fawn Hardware is your place for all your gardening needs. Seeds, onion sets, cabbage, strawberry plants, and more. A complete line of home hardware items too. Everything for the house, including plumbing, hardware, and metal roofs. Plus, Rising Fawn Hardware has everything you need for your livestock, including name brands like Nutria, Tucker, and Faithway. Always with a hometown atmosphere, it's Rising Fawn Hardware. 4300 Highway 11 South in Rising Fawn. Open 8 in the morning till 6 at night, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and 8 to noon on Wednesday. Even open on Saturday from 8 until 4. Rising Fawn Hardware.
Welcome back to Decision 2018 on KWN TV. From the Dade County Public Library, I'm Chris Goforth. We're glad to have you with us. Moving along now, we'll head to the Dade County School Board District 2. Jennifer Hartline is the incumbent. Larry Williams is the challenger. Both are Republicans. Thank you both for being here this evening. We'll give each candidate now 2 minutes for their opening comments, and we'll begin with Mrs. Hartline.
Again, my name is Jennifer Hartline. Thank you for having me. I'm your current District 2 School Board Representative, and I have enjoyed serving on the board, and it is definitely different than any business I've ran before, but I've enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed being a voice for the kids, and I hope to continue to do that.
Mr. Williams.
My name is Larry Williams, and I'm running for District 2 School Board. First of all, I'd like to commend Jennifer for the fine job she has done. I'm not running against Jennifer. I'm running because I have experience in education, and I would like to bring that experience to the table. Not only have I had experience as a teacher, I've had experience as a teacher on both the local, state, and national level. I always put a priority on my students. That has always been my priority. I always worked with the parents. I even visited my students in their homes, and if I am elected as your candidate, I will serve you to the best of my ability. I will make myself available to you. I will make myself available to the schools, and I will visit the schools. But first and foremost, I encourage you to vote regardless of who you vote for.
Thank you both for being here. And just as a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. School safety is in the forefront. In discussion, the Dade County School Board has taken steps to place a school resource officer in every school. Do you feel the school board has done enough, or do they need to continue their efforts? And please explain your answer. Mrs. Hartline, we'll start with you.
I think what we've done so far has been great. However, again, I don't think there's ever enough that you can do for school safety. I am definitely proud of the fact of the joint venture, that has been done between the Dade County Sheriff's Department and our school board. I'm really glad that we were able to go ahead and get an additional officer, or 2 additional officers now, 1 at each school. We have, as Cindy had said in her part, 276 plus cameras. And one thing that if you were at our or were watching and was part of our last work session, then you would have noticed that we are actually looking into some further help that would actually be a database and software system where teachers have immediate access of notifying within 60 seconds and a lockdown happening, and it all happening simultaneously. So I think that's something that's very exciting, and I hope that the board decides that we could move forward with something like that. I know I personally, I'm excited about the ability to do that, and how our local sheriff's department would have the ability to access and see at any one point in time, what's going on and what areas they would need to come into if there was a problem.
Mr. Williams?
First of all, I would like to commend the school board for the job they've done. As I heard the other candidates speak before me, you can never do enough for school safety. But they have done an excellent job. I commend them for working with the sheriff's department. And I just think that whoever is elected to the school board needs to always look for new and innovative ways, look at what's being done on the national level, on the state level, and see if we have the finances and the ability to incorporate those into our school system. But I do commend the school board for what they've already done.
Mr. Williams, we'll begin with you for this question. What are your thoughts on possibly arming teachers and or school employees who are willing to take additional firearms training?
That's a very touchy issue. I guess I'll have to just echo what Daniel said. I am a licensed carry person, and so I do believe in the ability to carry. However, not all teachers, if that is a policy that is implemented, should carry a firearm, and it should be done only with extensive training through the local sheriff's department or whatever method is implemented by the state of Georgia. Really and truly, I think that that's an issue that is going to have to be discussed even further, and I know that it's an issue that has two sides to it. So I do think that if it's implemented, it should be a teacher's choice and not forced on teachers or principals.
Mrs. Hartline.
I have to say I agree with Mr. Williams. I think it's one of those things that's to each their own. You're either comfortable with it or you're not. But if you are, then you obviously need to be very well trained. And in conjunction with that, I think it's one of those things that, we would need to look at, advisement from not only our local sheriff's department, but our attorney as well.
Several parents at a recent meeting had asked school administrators to think about metal detectors at the schools. What are your thoughts on that? And we'll begin with you, Mrs. Hartline.
Well, I'm not opposed to it. I do see the point that was made about, well, if there's so much time it takes to get in there and they're standing in lines waiting outside, no matter how many you have, then you do have a bigger target. At that point, you've brought what somebody was going to take inside and allowed it to happen outside. So I think it's one of those things that, with further discussion, there can be a median that would be met.
Mr. Williams?
I would have to agree with her. That needs further study. If you implement, say, metal detectors, and I've gone through schools with metal detectors because when I was teaching agriculture, I traveled the entire state with students and went through metal detectors. If you have a key in your pocket or any type of metal belt, it's going to sound the alarm. Those of you that travel through airports know that this is the case. And you back up a tremendous line, and as was stated before, you can run into problems if you back the students out into the parking lot. I'm not against the metal detectors. I do think it needs further study, and I think that they need to carefully analyze it.
Mr. Williams, we'll begin with you with this question. 70% of property taxes in Dade County go to the operation of the school system. Is there enough money currently being spent on education in Dade County, or should there be additional money made available? Please explain your answer.
I'm not sure if there's ever enough money for education, so I'll have to answer it that way. As I said, I spent 30 years in education as well as traveling the world as an agriculture missionary. But, it's an issue of taxes. It's an issue of where are you going to get the funds. It's always an issue. The budget is always set, and I do commend, by the way, the legislature this year. They have implemented more money for local schools, so there is going to be more money available. You know, I guess the answer is yes, there does need to be more money for education, but then again, whoever is in charge, whether it's the superintendent or principal, and the board, needs to look carefully at the budget and just see where the money is going and if there are avenues for further improvement.
Ms. Hartline?
Will you repeat the question, please?
Sure. 70% of property taxes in Dade County go to the operation of the school system. Is there enough money currently being spent on education in Dade County, or should there be additional money made available?
I think you have to kind of look at the priorities. I think currently, yes, we are able to operate within our means. I think we should always operate within our means. Could I say, yeah, more money? Of course, everybody always wants more. You know, there's always new programs. There's always different things to offer. You still have to work within your means. So I think currently, the 70% that comes from the taxpayers, I think that is within our means. And Dr. Harris has shown, you know, we've went from a $600,000 deficit to almost $100,000. That's been in conjunction with, yes, some cuts, retirements, not replacing those, but being within our means. And I think with the further things that she has been implementing, that we will be able to come out of that and have a balanced budget.
Do you feel school board members with school-age children should have those children attend Dade County schools? Ms. Hartline?
I have 3 children. I have an 11-year-old and I have a now 8-year-old that are currently in our school system. I'm sure this question was brought up directly because of my post of sharing my daughter will be joining and was selected to GPS for the fall. Let me give you a little bit of background about that. Okay, my first job is as a parent. And as a parent, it is my job to help my children reach their goals. And from a young age, my daughter went to camps there because we had friends that went there. And in her going to camps there, she really loved the atmosphere. She loved everything about it and said, "Mom, I want to go there." And so we talked as a family about it and said, you know, look, if this is what you want to do, if this is your goal, then it's going to be up to you to make the grade. And now, mind you, I wasn't on the board at the time either. It's going to be up to you to be able to keep your grades up and test and get in. You'll be interviewed, will be interviewed. It's a selection process. It's not just pay and you get in. And she held us accountable to that. You know, it's a reminder, hey, am I still going to get to? And so her dad and I had said, you know, look, if you can get in and you still decide you want to go, we're good with if you go to Dade or if you decide to go there. It is your choice. We'll try and figure out how to pay for it. And as of right now, she currently still has said that that's where she wants to go. So I do still have, you know, another child in the system that may not decide to move, that may decide to stay. And I'm fine with either one. I think we have a fantastic school system, but she is my daughter, and my first goal is to help her fulfill her dreams and reach her goals. So, thank you.
Mr. Williams.
I have 2 grandchildren in the system. My daughter graduated from here. I taught in the system. However, I am not going to criticize anyone that decides to take their children anywhere else. I refuse to do that. I think that each parent has to make their own decision as to what they want to do and what is best for their child. I personally don't have any children in the system right now other than the grandchildren, and I'm very proud of the education they're getting here. But no, I will not criticize anyone that makes that choice.
Mr. Williams, we'll stay with you to begin our next question. The school board is responsible for setting policy for the school district. If any, what areas do you feel need improvement? And please explain your answer.
Repeat that, please.
The school board is responsible for setting policy for the school district. What areas do you feel need improvement, if any?
I think the school board has done an excellent job. As I have stated before, I'm running because I think I have the experience to bring to the table as far as education goes. I would like to see, however, and this is my personal statement, I would like to see Dade County school graduates that graduate from Dade County High School go on and get a 4-year degree in education and would like to return to our system to teach. They at least are guaranteed an interview. I'm not saying I don't think you can legally say you have to hire them, but I think they should be guaranteed an interview. Who else would have a vested interest in the county other than the students that graduate from here?
Ms. Hartline?
Please repeat the question.
Sure. The school board is responsible for setting policy for the school district. What areas do you feel need improvement, if any?
I think we've done a great job with our policies, and as of right now, I can't think of anything that I would implement any different.
Do you feel the Dade County Board of Education does enough to make themselves available for the public?
I do, and I can speak solely for myself here. You know, my background is in sales. I'm a realtor. My number's out there everywhere, so you can always find me. Just, you know, I'm always available.
Mr. Williams?
I have no criticism on their availability. I really don't know enough about who all makes themselves available. I do know Ms. Hartline has made herself available, so I will commend her for that. And I will just say this, if I am elected, I will be available not only to the students and the teachers and administrators, but also to the parents. And I will, like Mr. Kay said, give my cell phone number and my email address.
In recent years, the Dade County Board of Education passed a resolution giving voters an opportunity to alter the current 65 and 5 tax exemption. The current law shifts the burden of school taxes to those under the age of 65. Are you in favor of keeping the exemption as is, or do you feel it necessary to modify it? Please explain. Mr. Williams, we'll start with you.
You know, that was a question that was asked in the last election, and I remember the question being asked. That's a very touchy subject. I would think that seniors probably, now listen, I'll tell you, I am 70 years old, so okay. So I would qualify for that, but I have also grandchildren in the system, and I have no problem in paying the school taxes. I think, and I'll just answer it this way, it should be left to the voters of the county, and it's not up to me to make that decision, and I'll just have to leave it there.
Mrs. Hartline?
I feel like it should be left to the voters. You know, if they want to amend it, you know, to allow for a cap, then that's their choice. You know, they voted for it. It needs to be put out there for them. I think the way we're operating without it, would we like to have it? Yes, but again, operating within your means, operating within your budget that you have. I'm not opposed to it if they wanted to alter it and put a cap on it, but I think you know, those people that are 65 and older, they have likely worked hard their whole life to earn and get to the point where they're at. And you know, if there was a modification to it, I think would probably be the median of the point.
Lieutenant Governor Casey Cagle, who is running for governor, is proposing that all Georgia public school systems move towards having a career academy. What is your opinion on Dade County having a career academy, Mrs. Hartline?
Well, I think we already meet it. We have the what's the CTAE, which already offers many programs. We've got, just to name a few, the welding, which is big, will be starting, I believe, in the fall. They've got the agricultural side. I think it's a great thing. I don't think it should necessarily be only a vocational. I think you still have to, you know, offer those opportunities to our gifted students as well.
Mr. Williams?
I taught for 30 years in vocational education, agricultural education, so obviously I would have to say, yes, I'm for it. Let me just put it this way. I have never really quit working for that, even after I retired. I served on the interview committee, hiring the new agricultural education teacher. I am currently on his advisory committee. I worked with all the schools in the system in implementing the Farm to School program, where students could have an opportunity to learn how to garden and learn how to get hands-on experience. I have 3 college degrees, but let me say this. My focus has always been on the student, and we need to focus on the student's needs. If the student needs to be involved with a particular career education, we need to provide that. And I am for career education for all students as well as academic. I have actually taught in both areas. I've taught in academic and I've taught in vocational settings. But not all students should go to college, and not all students should be welding. And that's how I feel about that.
Mr. Williams, will stay with you to begin this next question. If you're elected, do you feel you understand the role you will play as a member of the Board of Education?
I do. Not only have I've actually presented certain things to the State Board of Education before, and when I was involved in education, I've worked with the boards, so I understand the role, and I also know what the role and the state law allows the board to do and not to do. So, yes, I do.
Ms. Hartline,
Repeat the question, please.
if reelected, do you feel you understand the role you will play as a member of the Board of Education?
I do, and I hope that the voters feel the same, and as that I have served the community and served the students well, because that's my #1 goal.
Ms. Hartline, will stay with you for this next question. What assurances do the voters have that you will serve the higher goals for truthful and honest education as opposed to alleged politically manipulated curriculum and ethics?
Well, I hope that the people that know me or know of me understand that I'm a very straightforward person. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you. You may not be what you want to hear. I try and serve my life with integrity, and I would hope that the voters would see that and strive to continue to, put their best interests.
Mr. Williams?
I am unashamedly a Christian, and I believe that I have lived my life with integrity, and I intend to live my life with integrity. I do not believe in intervening or interjecting politics into education. I think that our students should have a quality education free from a political motivated influence.
Mr. Williams, you'll now have 1 minute for a closing statement.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity. Again, I want to just ask you to vote, regardless of who you vote for. There's a lot of different decisions you have to make. I served in agricultural education for 30 years. I was an agriculture missionary for 10 years. I've been a pastor. I've worked in the school system beyond my retirement era, and I've been involved in the community in various ways. And when I was teaching, I always put my students first and foremost, and I will continue to work for policies that will put our students first and create a positive working environment for both our teachers, our students, and our administrators. And I would work diligently to see that those policies are voted upon, and that's where I would stand.
Ms. Hartline, 1 minute.
I'd just like to say thank you again for the time that I've been allowed to serve. I've enjoyed it, and I think, with either one of us, we'll have a good representative. As I said, and from the very beginning, when I first started running the first go-around 4 years ago, I don't have an agenda. If I said I had an agenda, it was for the kids' best interest. To be that voice for the kids, to do everything in their best interest, and that's what I can continue to strive to do. So I hope that you go out and vote, whether you vote for myself or you vote for Mr. Williams. I think either way, it's going to be a win for you guys.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
We'll come back with candidates for the Dade County Board of Commission, District 1, as Decision 2018 continues on KWN-TV.
A time-tested financial institution equipped with the latest banking technology. The Bank of Dade, with mobile banking to fit your on-the-go lifestyle. Download our latest app today for your iPhone, Android, or tablet to bank on the go. Check your balance, pay bills, make deposits, and keep track of your account anytime and anywhere with the Bank of Dade's smartphone app. Make life easier by using today's most advanced banking technology to your advantage. Call us at 657-6842 or visit on the web at bankofdade.com. Your hometown bank since 1956, the Bank of Dade. Main offices on Highway 11 North in Trenton, and drive-thrus on Highway 11 North and Highway 136 West. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Gross Furniture in Trenton, Georgia, you get the savings, the selection, and the satisfaction of getting the furniture you deserve at the prices you want. Come in, relax, and take your time. Our staff can assist you with the entire process, from expert advice to professional delivery. That's because Gross Furniture is local and treats you with honesty. Just north of the Courthouse Square on Highway 11 in Trenton. Gross Furniture, the home furnishing store that offers you more.
Have lunch or dinner at Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried chicken finger and the best chicken finger sauce in the world. Guthrie's can help you plan your family's meals or get-togethers with bucket specials every Tuesday, those delicious wings on Wednesday, and platters every day of the week. Plus, get sweet tea by the gallon. Remember, Guthrie's has a party room for small gatherings, too. Guthrie's, Highway 136 West in Trenton, home of those golden fried chicken fingers and the best chicken finger sauce in the world.
Guthrie's, not fast food, good food fast.
Welcome back to Decision 2018 on KWN-TV from the Dade County Public Library. I'm Chris Goforth. As now we move along to the Dade County Board of Commission, District 1. And our candidates this evening, they are Jane Dixon, running as a Republican, Lamar Lowry, running as a Republican, and also Patrick Hickey, running as a Democrat. Thank you all for being here. We'll give each of you now 2 minutes to make your opening statements, and we'll begin with Ms. Dixon.
Thank you. My name is Jane Dixon. I recognize many of you all, but some of you I don't know very well. 2 minutes does not give me ample time to tell you about who I am, but I would like to leave these 3 thoughts with you when you go into the polls. I would like for you to vote for me for the first reason, because I have experience. I have spent my professional career in public education as a public school administrator. I did budgeting, I did personnel, so there are a number of things that I can bring to the commission. Second word you need to remember when you walk in the poll, when you see my name. Because of those experiences, I am a qualified candidate. I can lead and I can follow. And I look forward to working with people in a decision-making process. The third thing I'd like you to remember is that I have demonstrated my concern, my interest, and my willingness to work within this community for us to be a prosperous place to live and for us to have citizens who contribute to our community. There are a number of things that I would love to talk to you about tonight, but as I've said, we don't have that time in this forum, but at any time I would be happy to meet with you to explain them. I know that if I should be elected, I will have a learning curve. It won't be as deep as it would be if I did not have those first 2 words, experience and qualifications. But I am dedicated to this. I will do a very good job for you if you give me your vote, and I would appreciate it. And thank you for coming tonight to listen.
Mr. Lowry.
My name's Lamar Lowry. I served on the Dade County Commission for 8 years. In that 8 years, I never voted for a property tax increase. What I did vote for was tax relief. I voted for I helped support and vote for the 65 and 5 senior tax relief. I also lobbied and helped vote in the House Bills 818, 819, which allows you to freeze your homestead values, stopping backdoor tax increases from reevaluation. Now, I'm going to tell you something a little personal about myself. I was born poor, white, and naked. But I was raised by 11 parents, a mother that taught me to love people, all people, and a dad that enforced that But my dad was the one that taught me more about being fiscally financial conservative. Live within your means. That's what I brought to the Dade County Commission when I was on there. I love Dade County. I'd like to serve you again. So please get out and vote, and I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Hickey?
My name is Patrick Hickey. I've lived in Dade County for about 3 years now, moved back out here. My wife has family out here who's lived here their whole life. Have a 2-year-old daughter. She just turned 2. She was a handful before that anyways. A lot of times it's good to have experience and qualifications when you run for stuff, but I think anybody that puts their heart and mind to something can do it. That right there is qualification in itself for having a heart for the community that they run for. And a lot of people were born here and lived here their whole lives, and I've only been here a few years, but my heart is in Dade County. I love the community, and I hope that y'all give me a chance to serve you as a county commissioner.
We'll begin now with the questions, and again, a reminder, you'll have 2 minutes to answer each question. Ms. Dixon, we'll start with you. Do you believe there's been enough time and attention spent on economic development for Dade County?
Well, I think that we have done in the recent past a very good job with that. We still have a place to go, but we have a point of conflict with this in that some citizens of our community are pleased with things as they are or as they were, and that moving forward economically is not in their headset. I'm a person I've been a small business owner before. I am an advocate for small businesses, for people who run business, who live in our community, and who employ citizens of our community, and employ them in a position of full-time so they can have health insurance. So I do believe there is more we can do, but I think that the efforts that have been made so far have been commendable, and I would be a strong advocate for continuing that. I've been going around to talk to business owners, and I've been saying, remember, whether you vote for me or not, if I'm on the commission, you need to come and tell us what you need and how we're doing and how you're doing as a small business. Don't stay home and complain. Come and speak. Come to the county commission meeting or speak to someone. Share with them in a calm manner your concerns, your interests, and the things that you need to be a prosperous family in our community and to help our community to be prosperous. So I think we have done a lot, but we still have more we will be doing.
Mr. Lowry?
You can never have enough economic progress. The reason being, homeowners could not afford to run this county without business. Business is that important. For every dollar that you take in taxes, a homeowner gets about $1.45 in services. For every dollar a business pays in taxes, they get about 40% in services. So that goes back to the counties. If you're tired of paying property taxes, you ought to back economic development 100%, because without them, we couldn't pay our way.
Mr. Hickey?
Can you repeat that question again?
Sure. Do you believe there's enough time and attention being spent on economic development in Dade County?
I believe there is a lot of time being spent on it, and there could always be more time spent on it. Like they were saying, people like it as is or as it was. But if we want to, keep our roads going, keep our businesses coming in, we have to constantly, always be looking for ways to develop more.
Mr. Lowry, we'll begin with you with this question. What plans do you have, if elected, to help the county attract businesses, residential development, and perhaps even more recreation to Dade County? And please explain your answer.
Well, that's a hard question there. The county does a lot. We support the Industrial Development Authority. We pay them. I mean, we do a lot for recreation. We keep the 4 fields going. one of our departments that we do. Kids need it. We have hundreds of kids down there every day. There's a lot of important parts. This library is one of the important parts of economic development and keeping people jobs with the computer systems and so forth. So I would strive just to keep doing what the commission's been doing as far as trying to keep all the departments going, supporting the economic development committee, and that's about all I say about it.
Mr. Hickey?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Sure. What plans do you have, if elected, to help the county attract businesses, residential development, and perhaps even more recreation to Dade County?
I worked with my dad for almost 10 years, working in a restaurant from the time I was 14 till when I was almost 24 years old. And I got to interact with a lot of people in the community, and I interact with as many people as I can in the community here as well. Used to be in the Boy Scouts, so I know I liked my getaways out away from everything. But yeah.
Ms. Dixon?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because I think this is one of the things that I am not certain yet. It will be something that I still have to find out if I am elected, how we can do what I'm going to say. I do believe that we as a community, we need to raise the level of the pride of our community. I believe it's one of the most beautiful places you can ever go. But if we don't do something to help our citizens to have that unified pride, clean up our act, get our city more beautiful, work with the people in the city and the people out in the farms. I don't care if there's a trailer next door as long as it's clean and the front yard is cleaned up and the people are out there doing their share to keep our community beautiful. I am not pleased when I see people who don't have pride in the few things that they do have, if they only have a few. So I do believe in working with our residential areas. I do believe that we need to have like they have in New Salem, watch communities. We need to have groups that meet together in communities to have some sense of pride within the small areas that we live. And I hope that one of the things I will be able to find out is working as a commissioner, what is the commission's role, really, in doing those three things that you just talked about, residential and the other two items?
Recently, the Dade County Executive stated the Environmental Protection Division is working on several cases in Dade County, asking residents to clean up tires and garbage. Do you feel it's time for zoning laws for the unincorporated areas of Dade County? Mr. Hickey, we'll begin with you.
That is a touchy subject for a lot of people, especially when you bring up the word zoning in the county. A lot of people, like their land, they don't want zoning going on. They hold on to it. They take it dear. I think more can be done as far as cleaning up.
Ms. Dixon?
I was looking to see if I had rubber on the bottom of my shoes or not, because that's such a hot subject when you do talk about you're going to zone and tell me I can't have something on my own property. I live on a farm. I am a small farmer. I raise animals. I raise vegetables and all kind of stuff, goats, chickens, you name it. I've tried it. And I don't want someone to tell me, that's one of the reasons I live here, what I can raise and what I can't raise. But there is a standard, uniform quality to life that I do believe that can be said that everyone should meet. That is that we take care of what we have. If I can't take care of my animals, I should not have them. If I can't keep my grass cut and my pasture done, I should not have it, because it is an influence on the whole community. It represents who I am, and I do believe that we need to do more in that area if we can. We have to find out how to tread those waters. Now, zoning, I don't think we should zone. But do I want a trailer with trash sitting next door to me? No, I don't. But you know something? I will, if there's a trailer with trash next door to me, go over and ask my neighbor if I can clean up his trash. That's how much I believe in it. But I do not believe that we need to zone, because that's not why we're here. We're here because we have freedoms to have, if I want to have a donkey in my yard, then I should have a donkey. I have 2 of them in my yard. But I want to keep those jackasses standing out there because then it wards off some people who might be coming down my driveway. So, no, I don't believe in the zoning practice right now, but I do believe in that we can eliminate the need for it if we develop our pride and a good position in our community to take care of what we have.
You don't see a lot of door-to-door salesmen, I bet. Mr. Lowry.
Well, the short answer is no. I think if people want to have zoning, they need to move to the city or move to a gated community. You come to my house and ask me to pick up my trash or whatever I've got going, I'll kindly tell you to get back on your property. But to me, zoning, it gets out of hand. It's like everything else. It starts as a good thing, but then it just keeps turning and growing and getting bigger till it gets to the point to where, hey, you can't have a pickup truck showing in your yard. It's got to be put in the garage. It gets out of hand. Starts as good, gets out of hand. No for zoning.
The Board of Commissioners has recently partnered with the City of Trenton and the Dade County Water Authority to purchase land south on Highway 136 along Lookout Creek in order to establish a reservoir. Earnest money has already been paid to the landowner. What is your opinion about the reservoir? And as a commissioner, would you be in favor of or against the project? Ms. Dixon, back to you.
Well, since I'm not on the commission now, the first thing I would have to do is that learning curve again, is to decide why did someone think we needed a reservoir? What for? What are we going to do with it? How is it going to benefit us? We have a lot of poor people in this community, and how will the reservoir help our bills, paying our bills for our water or for whatever they're going to use it for? I don't know enough about it, so there's 2 problems. Either I have not been listening and have not pursued the interest to find out, or the persons who are pursuing this have not done enough to make me aware of what I should know about it so I would know how to behave about it. So I don't have enough information yet to know. I hope over some time soon that the entire community will know. It will be a community interest project, not a project of special things, just the water authorities or somebody else. But let's ask what's the benefit? Is it where our money needs to go? And then I would know better how to answer your question, okay?
Mr. Lowry?
Well, simply saying no that you're against the water reservoir is not an answer. 2 years ago, our Lookout Creek nearly got to the point where we were going to have to go on water rationing. So, do I think we can afford? I don't see how we can afford to build a reservoir. I mean, I just don't see the money fiscally available. But the other thing is, we're tied into Tennessee American, but we only get 475,000 gallons a day. We use 2 million gallons a day. So Tennessee American would love to come in here and take over our water company. Do we want to do that? I don't think so. I don't want to pay Chattanooga water bills. I don't know if we've looked into drilling aquifers or not. That's the town of Signal Mountain just went through Tennessee American Water Company in Walden, and Walden got their water from aquifers. So there's going to have to be a tough choice made. I mean, it takes water, and we're just talking about industry. They use a lot. So there's some tough choices to be made on water.
Mr. Hickey?
I don't think we need to look into, we need to look into a reservoir project for the future. Right now, I don't think we need it right now. I think that choice should be up to the voters because this is a lot of money going into a project, the taxpayers' dollars going into this project. And I think it should be up to the people in the community of, do we need this right now? I'm not saying that we don't need it because we don't want to get to the point where we run out of water and we end up needing it. So I'm kind of in the middle of it.
Do you believe the commission does a good job communicating with the public And how would you propose better communication between the commissioners and the public? Mr. Lowry, we'll start this one with you.
Well, I'd say absolutely not. When I was a commissioner, I wrote nearly weekly in the paper to let people know what was going on. The T-Splosh deal has really been a kind of handled poorly, in my opinion. Lack of communication, voting, having a special election that cost a lot of money, and then turning around and putting it back on the ballot this quick was just not the right thing to do. Now, well, I hope we get to talk about the T-Splosh later, because I've got some other things to say about that. But that's about all I got on that.
Mr. Hickey?
I think the current commissioners are doing the best that they can to get out to the people in the community. There can be more done. There's always that can be more done, just about anything. I know as a commissioner, I would make myself available 24/7, 365 to anybody, day or night. I want to be the person that people come to when they have an issue. So I would make myself more available. Can the current commissioners do more? Probably.
Ms. Dixon.
I'm running through my mind right now the pictures in my head of the commissioners right now. I think basically of all of them that I know personally well, they're very honorable and admirable men. I do believe that, and I think their primary interest is to do a good for the citizens of this community. I don't know that they have right now the very best way of reaching citizens. I'm not certain what that should be today. I think we have to find a more creative way to know because of this one fact, the T-Splosh he was just mentioning. If you sit and listen to people talk about it in the community, the misinformation is so mouthy about it that you could wonder, where did they get that? Where did they even hear that? Who passed that stuff? Who even said these words about it? So I think somehow we have failed in giving enough accurate information in enough places to enough people for the average citizen who knows this, that they're going to have to pay more money for something, and what they want to know is what for. Well, we need to do a better job with that. I'd like to hope that possibly my sometime overbearing personality could help spread some of the news about, wait, don't believe the propaganda. It isn't true. All news is not false. Okay? Some things that we tell you are true, and this is how it is. But let me give them credit where it's due. You go to the county commission meetings. How many of you ever go? Don't raise your hands. But not very many of us. Very few of you go. Very few of us ever get engaged with them. Very few even ask questions. Very few of you even understand the words they use. And do you have to? I'm not sure you always have to know all the words, but what you have to have down somewhere in your headset is, do I trust that person to do the right for me and for our community? If that's true, I don't have to know everything. I can let Robert Goff go do what Robert Goff does with a sincere interest that his interest is in the broad picture, not the small person.
This election, Dade County voters will decide on the Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, or T-Splosh. Have you spent time researching the pros and cons of T-Splosh and its passage? Are you for it or against it, and why? Mr. Hickey, we'll begin with you.
I think what Jane Dixon said in the last one about getting your information in certain spots, and it's not always fake news, but you got to know who you're going to, whether you see it on Facebook or whoever's posting it around Dade County, or just go to your commissioners or Mr. Townsend and get it yourself. And a lot of people can't get out to be able to do that. Me personally, as a citizen, because I'm not currently on the commission board, I'm voting for the T-Splosh because I want to see better roads, lit up exits, stuff that we really can't afford in the budget that we have right now, and whether that be for bad budget spending or planning, I would vote for the T-Splosh because I want to see our community thrive.
Ms. Dixon?
I attended the meeting today with some of you all at the luncheon that the commission had where the young man spoke to us about the T-Splosh. I left that session not still fully informed. So your question to me should be the same that every citizen has yet. Well, am I for it or am I against it? I don't know that answer yet, and yet I'm asking to be a member of the county commission. I need to find the right information that will tell me what we're going to spend the money for if we do it, and do we have faith that that's where that money will be spent? Do we have a good track record on money that we have gotten, on how we've spent it? Have we found ourselves faithful? That's one of the things I know Eloise asked me today, said, Jane, will you tell the truth and will you be honest? That answer is yes, always. So I do not know yet my answer on the T-Splosh. I have to learn more about it, and I have to know from people that I respect, what do they think? And what he just said is right. Ask the people that you respect and who have the accurate information, and then make your decision on what you will do with it. No one wants to pay more taxes, wants to pay more money, but folks, we will go nowhere without money. To make money, you have to spend some money, and to be prosperous and to grow and to do the things that we need in our community, they cost money. And we have to be able to prioritize, but we have to have the funds to do it. Bottom line, if we don't do it, we must cut something. Then you really will be complaining.
Mr. Lowry?
The T-Splosh, I'm glad we're getting to talk about it again because I mentioned it. The T-Splosh was offered to us, brought to us by our state legislator. John Deffenbaugh was probably a part of that. That tax is designed to keep us from having to raise property taxes, and at the same time getting our roads fixed. Now we say we vote it down. Gas goes up to $3.50 a gallon again. The county commission's got nowhere to go to get that extra funds except through property taxes. If you have the T-Splosh pass, they can use that money to buy gasoline for all vehicles. The fire trucks, the sheriff's office, the county road crew, everybody. So yeah, it's a hard decision. Nobody wants more taxes, but this is a tax that other people that come through our county will help us pay. And it's designed to keep the property taxes down, and if the commissioners don't do that, then every 2 years it's time, you got a time to limit their time in office. But I'm in support of it, strictly because I think it will help us save on property taxes, keep from having a property tax increase.
Ms. Dixon, we'll begin with you. If the T-Splosh passes, what are your priorities concerning the additional money, and what would you propose doing with the money currently in the county budget that is used for transportation?
Well, first thing you have to look at the list. From what the man explained to us today, it must be on the list. And most citizens in the room do not know what's on the list. So first, we would have to look at the list, see what were the items. I will tell you some of the things that I know that are on there that I am definitely for with transportation. Well, no, wait. If this was on the list, I don't know what it has to do with transportation, but one of those is the library. Wherever Marshanna is, she needs to know that I am a strong supporter of the library. Maybe it's the road coming in here that's got potholes. I'm not real sure, but whatever. However you cover that under that umbrella. We have roads that, I live down at the foot of Burkhalter's Gap, and 1 out of 2 years, the gap's fallen off. And that's not a built-in budget item. That gap falling off has to be done right then so people can travel, and there has to be emergency money ready. That could help take care of that. On the list of items that were on there, I'm trying to remember right now a number of other things that were there. I'd have to follow, as I said, that has to be my answer because I don't know all the things on there. And could be in this time we have left, because I do believe from citizens I've talked to, they're not going to vote it in if we don't give them explanations about, look, we can do these things with that money. And as Lamar said, your property taxes will not have to increase to pay for that item but that we can use this splosh money for that. But what the citizen has to entrust is that the commissioners will use the money appropriately and wisely and prioritize off that list.
Mr. Lowry?
Well, again, it's communication. We have got to communicate better with our citizens to let them know what's on there. But some of that money could also be used to cut taxes. Not all of it, but there could be some of it. If you can offset the expense of the road crew, that's transportation, the whole road department. Our commissioners have been really responsible, I think, with a splosh, and I don't know why they don't talk about it more. But in 2010, I think that was the last splosh I was a part of, we put in there. We put in there for road paving equipment. Road paving, we were contracting out. It was $95,000 to $100,000 a mile, depending on the width of the road, shoulders or whatever. Now we spend $47,000 to $53,000 a mile. We do it ourselves. So the commissioners, I think, are doing a good job with the splosh money, and I would be responsible with our splosh money, the T-splosh too, if it passes. I'd probably even go out on a limb. I said I'd never say I'd raise taxes again. I wouldn't say that because you never know what's going to happen. But if you have that kind of money, I would be willing to go out on a limb and say I would never vote for a tax increase again if that passes.
Mr. Hickey?
Can you repeat that question for me, please?
Sure. If the T-splosh passes, what are your priorities concerning the additional money, and what would you propose doing with the money that's currently in the county budget that's used for transportation?
I would use the T-splosh money for stuff that needed to be done rather than just small, petty stuff that can be used out of a different budget, or if we have extra T-splosh to be able to use that for those projects. For instance, the I-59 exit that everybody's talking about, to do that, that would cut down on all of the tractor trailers that come through the city, slow down traffic, and tear up these roads because they're heavier vehicles. To do that, we would need the T-splosh to be passed, to do the surveying for the exit, to cut down on all of the traffic that comes through here. If you drive through Trenton around between 3 and 4 o'clock, and then going into the times that people are getting off work, there is so much traffic that comes through there. So to be able to do that, you need to pass the T-splosh, and I would focus on the bigger projects that could be done that could not be done on our yearly budget that we, or that the commissioners budget for.
Mr. Lowry, we'll begin with this question with you. Would you be in favor of continuing to fund, along with the City of Trenton and the Dade County Industrial Development Authority, a full-time person to work on retail and industrial development in the county?
Yes, I would. Strictly because, just like I said, property owners cannot pay the bill of what it takes to run this county by themselves. We must stay on top of economic development.
Mr. Hickey?
Yes, I would. It's a short answer, but I would support it.
Ms. Dixon?
Say that one more time.
Would you be in favor of continuing to fund, along with the City of Trenton and the Dade County Industrial Development Authority, a full-time person to work on retail and industrial development in the county?
I most definitely would. As I told you, I have been a small business owner for a number of years, and I believe that we need to support our small businesses. We need to support the employees that they hire, and we need to have a person who is dedicated and has the time, the interest, and no other things that they have to deal with, like the commissioners would have to deal with, because I don't believe any of them have, including myself, have the ability to know all the things that a trained person in economic development would know. And if we look at the things that that position has done in the recent history, it has been very good. We have brought some things here. We have to keep our small businesses going. We have to support our business owners presently. We have to train our kids coming out of our high schools so that if they want to stay in this community and have a business and run that and prosper in this community, and what we have to do as citizens is shop in our community. We're fussing about this tax, but yet we run off to Walmart and spend our money where we could shop here in our community and we could help our small businesses. We say, well, they don't have what I need. Well, they can't keep enough stock because we don't buy enough for them to keep all that. So I believe strongly in the economic development of this community needs to also look at our residential areas, the pride that we have in this community, the beauty that's here, and let a person handle that and let them bring those ideas to us.
Mr. Hickey, we'll begin with you for this next question. The Dade County Commission has been in a restoration phase of the old Dade County Courthouse. What are your feelings on the restoration, and are you in favor of seeing it completed and occupied?
I am 110% in favor of seeing it completed. I've heard a lot of people saying that it's an eyesore, it needs to be torn down. It is a part of history that's been in Dade County for years, and to just wipe something out like that is disrespectful, not just to the building and what happened in the building, but to the county. So I'm 100% in favor of any renovations that get done and seeing it completed.
Ms. Dixon?
I'm exactly in the same position. Donna Street has invested every breath she has in the history of this county. Sarah Moore spent most of her life in that old courthouse. And I believe that it could be something that could be of such value to our community. If you've listened to me tonight, you've heard that I believe in the pride of who we are, what we're doing, where we live, and that we need to come together. We have to pay for things that we want. We have to chip in together, and we have to find the most economical way for all of us to chip in and to pay for what we have to have done. They've tried to raise money, raise funds from contributions. They've done a good job, but that's not enough. I believe the courthouse will be just as great as the one down in what is it, Delano, or down south in Georgia, Dahlonega. That's it, Dahlonega. You know, there's just so many great things that could happen around here if we just could not worry about and blame, but say, put our hands together and let's get some things done. I'm so proud of the people who have been working on the courthouse together themselves, their energy. They're not paid citizens. They're not paid anything. They're volunteers who are wanting this community to be the most wonderful place for people to come to visit and for people to live. So I am 100% in favor of it.
Mr. Lowry?
I'm in 100% agreement with my opponents. So the old courthouse is our history. But we also have to be conscious of our taxes and do it as we can. And we talked about economic development. The Chamber of Commerce is over at the old railroad station over there on the tracks. Half the people in Dade County can't find it. Can you imagine a visitor coming here and trying to find our Chamber of Commerce? And from what I understand, we all talked about the full-time economic development person. From what I'm understanding, his office would also be in that area. Try to get all the economical people into that area. So yes, I'm for funding the courthouse as we can.
Ms. Dixon, we're back to you now. Have you researched the county budget, and are you in favor of current spending levels? What are the specific areas you feel need increasing or decreasing?
Have I studied the budget? I received a copy of the budget, and it's also online. I have been looking at the budget. Am I in favor of them? I don't think I have a position of judgment yet. I don't think it's fair for a person like me who has not yet been invested in how choices were made to be in judgment of how it's spending and how people have delegated resources to be given. The one thing that I think would influence how I would prioritize and place things on those line items would be that we make certain that our workers I visited today he was talking about Billy down at down by Eloise's house, that big complex down there where all that stuff is, the barn, whatever you call it. You know, and there's 7 men now down there working. There were 15. There's 7. And they work all day long, hard. They do have health insurance, but their pay is so low for what they do, and that they do it all now. So I think there's little items like that that we need to look at. I am opposed to, if we have a full-time position and someone quits, that we put in a part-time position and we don't give people health care. I think we need to believe in the people who work in our community. We need to help the people in our community have adequate resources to live, to have health care, and to believe that they can be a contributor. So I would have to give myself enough time, okay, to get vested in the budget before I can stand and make judgment on how the people who preceded me made those kinds of decisions.
Mr. Lowry.
Well, one of the hardest things being a commissioner is splitting that budget up. Nobody gets fully funded. We don't have the money. I sat down with Don Townsend. I went over the budget with him in his office. I believe they are doing a tremendous job of what we have to work with. They're not raising taxes, and like Jane said, we got some guys in road crew people that are making $13 an hour. It's not a living wage, really. They work in the hottest part of summer. That paving that I was telling you about, that's the guys that are doing it. So, and then in wintertime, middle of the night, snow, those are the guys out there salting the roads and clearing the fallen trees. So yes, I think the Dade County Commission is doing a good job with their budget from what I saw.
Mr. Hickey?
Kind of got to bounce off both of theirs. As far as the judgment place, I'm not currently in that seat. I can't say 100% of what stuff's been spent on. Did they spend too much? Did they not spend enough? And I agree with Lamar. There are people out there that, like the power line people, go out and they work out in the dark to make sure that our lights come back on. I'm not in that seat, so I can't, like Ms. Jane said, can't put any judgment on them because I'm not in that seat.
What is your opinion on term limits for commissioners, Mr. Lowry?
We have term limits. They're called elections. We have them every 2 years. Somebody don't do a good job, term limit, it's over. That's my opinion on term limits.
Mr. Hickey?
I do believe there needs to be a term limit on it. As far as just the elections. Yeah. So.
Ms. Dixon?
I was president of an organization, and every time it came up to get someone new elected, everybody said, no, you just keep doing it. And after a while, I got to where I said, wait a second, just keep doing it. Let's have an election. Let somebody else do this for a little while, you know? So I don't know how, once you are a commissioner, how you really feel about term limits, whether they should be or not, personally for yourself. But for the community, I think that what Lamar said, term limits, we do have them. They are elections, but I will tell you, elections are hard. Elections are hard for candidates to pull off sometimes. It's hard to make sure that everyone understands the truth about what you're saying. So if the process that we have of 2 years, every 2 years, is what keeps that candidate true and faithful, then we probably have them and that it's enough. So I'm not certain that term limits is the answer, because if you're serving and you're honest and you're truthful, and people have faith that you are making decisions in the global best interest of people, there's not a whole lot of fear in that you won't be reelected. Now, if you've done something that, like Lamar said, if you aren't doing the right thing, you shouldn't be reelected. But it's the responsibility of the community to come forth and say that. And in a sense, you end up monitoring yourself as a community. You monitor the people you elected. If they're not appropriate, You don't reelect them, and you go out and you secure responsible candidates to run.
Final question from me. Mr. Hickey, we'll begin with you. What are the 3 best reasons that make you the best candidate?
I love my community. I want to do what's best for the community. My family lives here. In-laws live here. My own brother just lives right down the street. And I keep trying to pull my family out here just because it is a good community to raise your family in. It is a good community to start a business, good school system. I don't know if that was that's just the first one that I mentioned of why I'm a good person. I'm honest. I want to do what, kind of bouncing off the first one, I want to do what's best. My heart is invested in the community. I don't know if that was 3 or not.
Ms. Dixon.
I'll go back to the 3 words. When you walk in that booth and you see my name, I want you to remember 3 words: experienced, qualified, and I have already demonstrated my interest in the community. I'm a member of the Optimist Club, which is one of the proudest things I do. Some of you all in this room are a member of that group. We do some wonderful things for people in our community that you know nothing about. Many of the things that we do, we publicize. We're proud of them. But there are a lot of other things that we do. Larry Moore is sitting over here. He was one of the very first people who was in the Optimist Club, and still today, if you walked up to him and asked him to help somebody, he would do it. That's what I want to be like. That's what I want people to know me for. I don't need any publicity. I want you to know if I can help, you need to ask. I believe that I would enjoy, and I know that I would be proud to serve with the people that are going to be elected to the commission, and with Robert and with Ted and whoever wins the others, and with Mr. Bradford. I think I can get along with them. If I can't, well, then they're going to have some trouble. That's about all I can say. Because if you elect me, you've put me there for a reason. Then you believe that I could get along with them and I would do a good job for you. I would represent truth and honesty, and that you could come and ask and talk. And then I'll ask you, what have you done about it? If there's a problem, I'll ask you first, do you want to be part of the solution, or do you want to just complain? And I will expect people to join hands and to do things together in our community. That's it.
Mr. Lowry?
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Dade County. I love Dade County. I love people. I worry about being conservative and not raising taxes because it hurts. It hurts a lot of people that can't afford it. Those of us that can afford it, it's not a big deal. But you really have to think about the little man and the young folks. So that's one reason. The next reason is I have kids, grandkids. I worry about their future. I want to make sure it's secure for them. And the third reason is I have the experience, 8 years, the proven record, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
We'll now give each candidate 1 minute to make a closing statement. We'll go this time, we'll go in reverse order. Mr. Hickey, we'll start with you once again.
All right. I was thinking I was going last. I know it feels like I haven't had all of the answers that everybody was looking for tonight, but I do want to say I am, and if you want to meet up with me after we get done here, I will give you my phone number in any way that you can get in touch with me. If I don't know the answer, I will find it. I will ask whoever I have to ask to get it. I know it kind of feels like I'm the underdog in this whole thing for someone that's run for an office in the county before and one that's actually held the seat before. I have high respect for him. And that's my statement.
Mr. Lowry?
Well, like my signs say, I've proven experience, so you know me. You know what I'll do. You know what I stand for. Robert Goff, in his prayer, mentioned how lucky, how blessed we are to be able to meet here tonight and be able to vote. We're still being blessed. God's blessed us well, and one of the ways he's blessed us and secured our freedoms is through our U.S. military veterans. Right, General Woods, freedoms are not free. So thank you, veterans, and I'd like to have your vote May the 22nd.
Ms. Dixon?
On the voting day, when you walk in the polls, or if you vote early or absentee, however you do it, I ask you to consider the fact that I would be more than honored to do this for you. I would like to sit at home in my swing and think they trust me. They believe that as a member on that panel, that are commissioners, that I would work faithfully with them to make wise decisions. I have good decision-making skills. I've spent my life working with people, working with the public, working with the community. And I would appreciate your vote. And if you have family, friends, which you do, please ask them to go vote. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, and good luck. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll have more. And this time, it's the candidates for the Dade County Board of Commissioners, District 2, as Decision 2018 continues on KWN-TV.
Did good.
Tennessee Valley Net, your local provider of fiber optic high-speed internet, TV with over 200 digital channels available, and phone service with lots of extras. Fiber optics from TVN is expanding to many areas. Call and see if TVN is available in your area. 706-657-4367 or log on at tvn.net today. Bundle and save on fiber optic high-speed internet, digital TV, and phone service, all from Tennessee Valley Net. 706-657-4367. Online at tvn.net.
Methamphetamine affects everyone, your neighbors, your friends, and even your family.
Know the signs.
Physical symptoms include you may have extreme difficulty sleeping and even insomnia, and you may lose your appetite.
Know the signs. Please know the signs.
You can seem nervous and anxious and even have paranoia.
Know the signs.
Overheat easily and sweat without even being hot.
Know the signs.
Dilated pupils and even hair loss.
Know the signs.
Hallucinations and delusions. And you can also have tachycardia, which is a rapid heart rate.
Know the signs.
You may have liver damage and loss of skin elasticity.
Know the signs.
You may notice unexplained financial instability and social isolation.
Know the signs.
You may have a false sense of euphoria, coupled with strong depression and even risky behavior, legal trouble, memory loss, and repeated incarceration.
Please know the signs. Unfortunately, we do.
Welcome back to the Dade County Public Library for Decision 2018. Here on KWN-TV, I'm Chris Goforth. We'll continue now. This time it is the Dade County Board of Commissioners, District 2. They are Michael Scott, Philip Hartline, Scotty Pittman, the incumbent, and Warren Johnson, all running as Republicans. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We'll give each of you now 2 minutes to make your opening comments. Mr. Scott, we'll begin with you.
Hello, my name is Michael Scott. I retired off the job about 2 years ago. 2 years ago due to health-related issues. I'm a veteran, retired mailman. I was a former union president and a former new home firefighter and first responder. And yes, I have a voice that sounds like Ernest T. Bass, but I'm not going to break any windows out. That I promise. I just basically would like to run to be the commissioner, to learn like I say, learn the job. There's several issues people have talked to me about, but I'm gonna keep it on as a military term, KISS. Keep it simple and stupid. Next person.
Mr. Hartline.
Good evening. My name is Philip Hartline. I have lived in Dade County my entire life, and I think it is time for a younger generation to step up and get involved in their community. I love the town I live in. I've traveled from New York to Seattle to Miami. I always come home. There's several things that I think need to change or we can make better, and that's why I'm running. I don't have a problem with the people that are in there. I think there just need to be some new ideas. When things get hard, it seems like they either want to go to the landowner or another sales tax. And to show you some of how I am, I've got a softball team that played ball tonight, but I had to be here for this. So I am dedicated, and I do want to help our community. Thank you.
Mr. Pittman?
June 2002, I was elected to my first term as commissioner. September that year, I was hired on at Norfolk Southern Railroad as electrician. In March the following year, I got married. So I took on 3 major life changes all within a year and didn't know what I was doing on really any of them. Felt my way through. Being on the commission has been one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done. Now, it can be very frustrating because some things you run into that you want to go out and you get a call from an elderly lady that lives on the road, and 30 years ago, if there was 5 houses on the road, the county would go in and pave it. Well, that's not the same way it is today. And you get a call, hey, I need my road paved, and you go out and look and you can't do it. It's very, sometimes it's frustrating, but on the flip side, when you get to go out and help someone and you see that they really appreciate it, it makes it all worthwhile. So, like I say, I'm a lifelong resident of Dade County. Been here 47 years. Been on the commission for this my 16th year. Got my wife, Amy, wonderful wife, 4 kids, live on Sand Mountain on Porter Road, and I try to make myself very accessible. My phone number's posted all over websites, cards in the commission office. So if you ever need to get in touch with me, you can either call down at the commission office or look on the website and get each one of the commissioners' phone number. We try to be as accessible to the public as possible. We don't know who wants to talk to us and when, or we would come to your house if we had a crystal ball, but we do not. So that's all I've got to say for the opening statement.
Mr. Johnson.
I'm Warren Johnson. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Navy. I've been here since 1999. I'm invested. There's 4 generations of my family here. I'm a youth pastor at a local church. I've served this community as a foster parent for 9 years, so I'm invested in other people's families too. I'm a hard worker. I'm not afraid of a challenge, and I'm a quick learner. I think there's a lot of assets in Dade County that have not been utilized and need to be utilized, and I think that I could do a fine job in doing that and make life better in Dade County. Thank you.
We'll move on to the questions now. You'll each have 2 minutes to respond. Mr. Scott, we'll begin with you. Do you believe there's been enough time and attention spent on economic development in Dade County?
No, sir, I do not. I believe the Walmart that went to Lookout Valley should have came here. You know, I mean, I know small businesses, you need them, but at the same time, you've got to look forward. You've got to grow. Like I think Ms. Dixon said, people go to Walmart and spend the money instead of spending it here in the county. That's basically my way of looking at it.
Mr. Hartline?
I do. Part of the problem is, though, is when they spend the time to do it and you get companies wanting to move in, then they were restricted or limited to where we can't get them in here to do what they want to do. They put a restrictions on stuff and keeps them out. We don't have much room to grow as far as in the city. We're between 2 mountains, a creek, a railroad, and an interstate. So when we do spend time to do that, you know, we got to watch what we're bringing in. But yes, they have spent enough time on getting it in, but when someone wants to come, they need to let them in.
Mr. Pittman?
Well, we, I think it was 5-6 years ago, we purchased the land down behind the old Shaw building, and Vanguard approached us about coming in. At that time, when we bought the land, built the road in, we didn't have anybody looking. We hired a director, Peter Cervelli, over the economic development, the downtown IDA. He went out and recruited these people, and he found this company. And there was several companies in the past that had looked at Dade County, but we didn't have any land to offer, so they went on to the next small town. So yeah, and when we bought that land, we had people very mad at us for buying that land. It's stupid. Well, nobody will ever build a business back there. Well, now there's a a company that employs 100 people. So, and we've got other companies that have looked at some of the other lots. We were a member of the JDA, the IDA, Limestone Valley, at Chamber of Commerce, the Dade County Chamber of Commerce. We fund them every year. And that was a fight, Lamar can tell you, that was a fight we fought for years because a couple of our members really were not in favor of funding the Chamber of Commerce, even though it was $18,000 a year at that time. And we had a chamber director go out and promote small business, help bring in a few restaurants, I think Guthrie's. So, yeah, we spend a lot of time on economic development.
Mr. Johnson?
I think it can be pushed more. Some of the businesses that we have come into this community, I know some people that have worked for Vanguard, and their starting pay is low from what I've been told. Other people have backed out because of their pay situation, and you can't make a living at $10 an hour. That's not a living. Not for a family. Maybe for an individual living with their parents, you can do that. But that's the company that came in here and took that over, and it's not economically beneficial to the people of this community to come in here, and the businesses coming in here and paying $10 an hour is not going to be economically feasible for us.
Mr. Hartline, we'll begin with you. What plans do you have, if elected, to help the county attract businesses, residential development, and perhaps even more recreation to Dade County?
As far as businesses go, one of the things as voters we passed was liquor by the drink. Then you had the commissioners restrict it to where you can only put it in certain areas. If we voted in, we should free it up and let the businesses move in. So in that purpose, I would let businesses come in, give them what we voted to let them have. As far as residential development, I started a subdivision. I'm probably the only person in the county in the last 15 years that has paved a road and turned it over to the county. In that same token, as in residential development, in 1995-96, the county passed an ordinance that they would no longer pave roads, but after that, they still let developers come in, build subdivisions, tell people that the developer would tell people that they were going to pave the roads after so many houses had been built. They didn't do it. They need to work together with developers to be able to come in and pave the roads and not be standing there quick as they lot it off, put a road, power, and water in, and want more taxes. We should give them tax breaks, not a tax break, but just not start charging them taxes before the development's even finished. As far as recreational, we have a fabulous establishment at the Four Fields. We're not utilizing it. We should have baseball tournaments, softball tournaments, soccer tournaments. That is not what just comes in at them fields, but that's money into the county. You're talking $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a weekend we could bring into the county, but they're not using the facilities, and that is some of my ideas.
Mr. Pittman.
I agree with a lot of what Philip just said. The ball fields are underutilized. 4 years ago, we raised taxes. We raised taxes to give our employees a raise who had not had a raise in 7 years. And I sat in the meeting and took some pretty hard shots. But I said that night, we will do everything we can to look for ways to bring more money into the county. I brought up the liquor by the drink. We put it on the ballot. Again, it was not an easy sell. You had a room full of people totally against it. Once it passed, we did put ordinance regulations on it, but the meeting we put the regulations, it was stated, we're in a learning curve. I'm 47 years old, and that's only the second time I remember that ever going before the voters to be voted in, and it passed, and that showed me that people wanted to get out and have that option. But we were new at it, so we went by ordinance another county had, and we even loosened that ordinance up, and we told the people at the meeting, if there's anything in this ordinance that cannot be met, please come back and talk to us, and we will look at making contingencies or removing some of the ordinance. So far, we have not had anyone come back to ask for a variance or anything removed. The Four Fields, we also had group meetings about trying to bring in more tournaments to the 4 fields. If you can get a 6 and under or 7 under World Series, you can bring in a whole lot of money because grandma, grandpa's. But we've had one come in, and I think it was a 9 and under. It takes a lot of effort and actually being in the right place at the right time. And unfortunately, like Philip said, I agree 100%. Those fields are underutilized. And Philip built one of the best roads in Dade County. Emma Lane is just gorgeous. It's got curb. It's got as good as road as you want, and we did accept it.
Mr. Johnson?
A few years ago, I was over the rec soccer league and talking about the 4 fields utilization, and I brought a proposal in front of Ted Rumley, Mr. Rumley, and told him that somebody was willing to come in and use our 4 fields and pay us $5,000 cash to use them, and they were bringing all their own insurance, everything. If they were coming for a weekend tournament between East Ridge Soccer Association and Fort Payne Soccer Association, and I was showing my way out of his office. So I know that there has been opportunities about this, and it did not happen. And this is one of the things that we can do just by putting yourselves in contact with these associations and watching that they will come here if we open it up to them. I know it because I was standing in front of them telling them that, and he said no. So they've been tried to be utilized, and it's been a stopping point in the office. So I think we can use that. And as far as bringing in businesses, it's just trying to get the right businesses in. Not that we get more businesses, because if we get more businesses like we have, it's just going to keep our communities down. Higher paying businesses would be better.
Mr. Scott?
Repeat your question, please.
Certainly. What plans do you have, if elected, to help the county attract businesses, residential development, or perhaps even more recreation to Dade County?
As out talking to people, as they said, you try and get a ball tournament in here, you can't bring them in here. It's safety issues or liability issues or all this stuff. If you bring more people into your tournaments, like they said, grandma, grandpa, whoever, they're going to come spend money. That's your revenue going up for everyone. There's houses. Make sure they get the sewers or septics or whatever need to be approved. They were talking about the interchange or another entrance off of 59. Has anybody possibly seen about a business that would be willing to relocate out there if it's built? And a joint venture between private and public. That's all.
Recently, the Dade County Executive stated the Environmental Protection Division is working on several cases in Dade County asking residents to clean up tires and garbage. Do you feel it's time for zoning laws in unincorporated areas of Dade County? Please explain your answer. Mr. Pittman, we'll begin with you.
I've been around a long time, and I know that zoning is one of the touchiest subjects that it may be worse than the tax increase. You start talking about zoning in Dade County, especially Sand Mountain, because people like to have they like to be on their property and use it for what they want, when they want, and they don't want you coming in and telling them. And I don't feel like that's their place. As long as you're not creating a safety or health hazard, I'm not in favor of zoning.
Mr. Johnson?
I'm not in favor of zoning. That a lot of people they pay for their property. You pay the county each year for your property, and you should be able to do on your property, as long as you're not harming anybody else or the environment, you should be able to do as you please.
Mr. Scott?
No, I'm way against zoning. If you're on your property and you want to do what you're on your own property, do it. If there's a safety issue or you're going to hurt somebody, then no. There needs to be some protection put in. But other than that, no zoning.
Mr. Hartline?
For as far as zoning goes, no. And I'll give you a story. I had chicken litter piled up behind the house. It was 4th of July morning, and I needed to spread it before it rained. I took it to spread it on 20 acres. My neighbor come out, started raising cane. I made me about another round or two, and I got ill. So I went back over, and I said, would you like to pay my property taxes? They said, no. Would you like to buy my property? No. I said, don't come over here and tell me what I can and can't do on my own property. In that same token, where I live now, you go on down the road and there's a mobile home with a lot of trash piled up. It is right next to the creek, which runs back down to my property. If the trash is going into the creek and affecting my creek, then yes, there should be something done about that. But just straight up zoning, no. We need to follow building codes and it's building inspections when we're building stuff, but as far as zoning, I do not agree with it.
Mr. Johnson, we'll begin with you on this next question. The Board of Commissioners has recently partnered with the City of Trenton and the Dade County Water Authority to purchase land south of Highway 136 along Lookout Creek in order to establish a reservoir. Earnest money has already been paid to the landowner. What is your opinion about the reservoir? And as a commissioner, would you be in favor of or against the project?
For what I know now, I don't believe I'd be for it. There's a lot of questions brought up about the particular property. Purchasing the property, from what I understand, would cost $500,000. That's just a purchase price. The reservoir, you'd have to build dams. I know people that have buried a lot of diseased cattle there, and I really don't want my water coming from a property that has diseased cattle and animals buried in it for the last 20 years. So I think I would be against that. And there's no cap or limit or research on how much this would even cost. So as of this point, no, I wouldn't be for it.
Mr. Scott?
No, I'm against it right now. Like you said, $500,000 for the purchase price, and I have actually researched it. And according to somebody's map, they've already got a lake over there in Dade County. $500,000 for, way I'm reading it, 20 acres. They say Tennessee American was going to come in behind them and buy it if they didn't buy it and throw the money on it. $50,000 to hold it for a year. They're supposed to be purchasing it with a grant. All right. They have till June 29th to finish that, correct? According to the contract. Then they had, for another 6 months, they can put down another $150,000. If they do not purchase it within that 6 months, that's $200,000 down the tank.
Mr. Hartline?
I'm split on that. I am for the lake if we need it for water. I know how many people in here's got wells right now. You know, we go turn the tap on and we're accustomed to having water coming out. And I'm pretty sure 2 to 3 years ago we was at the bottom of what we could draw out of the creek. They're not going to tell you that, but you know, it was dry. As far as for the diseased animals on there, if we build a lake there, you're already drinking that diseased animals because it's on the creek anyway, so it's already leaching into the water. Where's the money going to come from? I would have to see that. What's it going to cost? When are we going to start it? And are we going to complete it? There's been other properties purchased and bought previous. We did nothing with. We turned around and sold it and took a loss. I'm not for that, but if we are going to actually follow through with what they say, then yes, I would be in it for the lake.
Mr. Pittman?
Well, I am for the reservoir. I voted in favor of putting the earnest money down, and the reason being, as a commissioner, you try to do what's right for today, but you also have to look 20 years ahead. And 20 years from now, who knows what shape Lookout Creek's going to be in? And if you only had a 2-week span in 12 years that you ran out of water, that's a long time to be without water. So if we had a reservoir and we needed the water, and probably we never will, but I have an insurance policy on my house, hope I never need it either. But as commissioners, you have to look out for the entire county. So if we had a reservoir, we could purchase water from Tennessee American, not enough to keep the county going, but with it and the reservoir, we could have enough water to sustain Dade County. On top of that, with the reservoir built, you could increase recreation in Dade County by 10 times what we have right now. You can have kayaking, you can have paddleboarding, you can have fishing, we could have a beach area, a campground. There's a lot of possibilities, walking tracks, swimming area, fishing. There's a ton of possibilities with this. Plus, there's grant money out there, tons of grant money for this type of project. Would we spend taxpayers' money to build a lake and do all the work? No, there's no way that we could afford it just with taxpayer money. We would have to get grant money. But yes, I am in favor of the reservoir, 100%.
Mr. Scott, we're back to you for this question. How do you believe do you believe the commission does a good job communicating with the public? And how would you propose better communication between commissioners and the public?
No, I do not believe they do a good job in communicating. I'm not a great speaker myself. But anyway, you've got the internet, you've got KWIN, and just different, if they got to publish it in the paper, the whole meeting notes for the county commission meeting. You got the paper, internet, Facebook, all kinds of stuff. If I'm elected, I will set up, I don't do Facebook now, I will set up a Facebook account. So they could go in there and look, they can call me, however, that's it.
Mr. Hartline?
As of right now, no, I don't think they do a good job. I voted on something that was voted in, and then I felt like I didn't ask enough questions. But in the same token, they didn't put out enough information. Do I want the county executive spending time to be on Facebook to put every little thing down to give to the public? No. Maybe should we have someone in there that puts it out there? We have a web page for the county, keep it up to date, keep it current, and let everybody know what's going on. Yes, I think we should do that. But as of right now, no, I don't think they do a good enough job putting it out there to us.
Mr. Pittman?
Well, I thought we did, but apparently we don't. So we've got the Dade County Sentinel, we've got Discover Dade, we've got Robin Ford Wallace, Daily Planet. She's at every meeting. I had a suggestion from one of the local gentlemen that we should telecast it live on Facebook, and now we're doing that. It was a great idea. We'd never thought about it because about my third, fourth year in the commission, we had no trouble getting information out because the room was packed every single meeting. You could always tell when you were going to get ambushed by the amount of people that were in the meeting. Now we're lucky if there's 12 people come. So we thought, everything's good. People call us. Ted told me when I was first elected, he said, when somebody calls you, whether they're calling to brag on you or calling to chew you out, you call them back. And I've tried to do that ever since that day. Now, if somebody calls and does not leave a message or it's a block number, I'm not going to pursue that. But if somebody calls and says, Mr. Pittman, will you call me back? And I've took quite a few butt chewings, usually from women. Women are a lot better at chewing you out than men are. So we try to communicate, really, guys. I've got a Facebook page, but my Facebook page is to talk to my friends, my family, wish them happy birthday, give my respect when somebody's lost. It's not to get on there and argue with somebody that is never going to agree with me. If somebody hates you, they're always going to hate you, no matter how many points you point out to them. So that's what I feel like about as far as Facebook. We were invited to join Facebook sites, but I'm not going to get on Facebook and argue with somebody. That's childish, and I'm an adult. So we'll try to do better. We've got our Dade County webpage up and running. There's a lot of information out there. We do not have a social media employee to keep it up to date, but maybe we can get a co-op next year, next summer, or this summer, and catch it up because kids are really good at that. That's all.
Mr. Johnson?
No, I don't think the communication is up to par, and it's not so much getting the information out to the public is the information, and when you ask questions, I've seen people go up at the commissioners' meetings, ask questions, which, by the way, happens after all the voting, which I don't see that. That's just a gripe session. That's why I never go up there and talk. But the people ask questions about what they just saw, and just like today, I went to the T-Splosh meeting, and the information that was coming from the man that was talking about T-Splosh was nothing that was put out. There was limited information and other things added to the way the money was supposed to be spent, and that was specifically asked at the meeting, and the information was not given out. So it's not particularly that they're not putting out any information, they're just not putting out the information that is important to the voters. And if you'd like me, as your representative of District 2, that information would be put out when it was pertinent, when it became viable for you to have. That's things that there was supposed to be some sort of a state fund or something in the T-Splosh. It didn't happen. So, but that information was asked at a meeting, and it was not told to be correct or incorrect. It was not even addressed. So that's my spiel on it.
Mr. Hartline, we'll begin with you with this question. In this election, Dade County voters will decide on the Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, or T-Splost. Have you spent time researching the pros and cons of T-Splost and its passage? Are you for it or against it, and why?
I have not spent time looking into it. I've talked to a little bit about it. As far as for it or against it, my personal opinion on this election, I will be voting no. Not because it is a tax, but because we voted on it in November. It's back on the ballot now. There has been no new information until recently put out about what they were going to do with it. As an investor, if I come to you and say, hey, loan me $1 million a year for the next 5 years, the first thing you're going to do is say, what are you going to spend it on? When are you going to start? And when are you going to be done with it? I asked the question in the office the other day, and I was told, well, we're working on it. I said, didn't we vote on that in November? I said, shouldn't that have been done in July or August? So as far as the tax goes, I'm voting no on it. I'm voting no now, but not because it's a tax, but because the lack of the information put out before the election.
Mr. Pittman.
If I come up to you as a Dade County citizen and you tell me, all right, Scotty, I'll either vote for you or I'll vote yes on the T-Splost, I'll tell you every time, vote yes for the T-Splost. Vote me out, because either one of these three gentlemen can do what I'm doing and not drag Dade County down. The T-Splost is going to bring money in that is not there. You bring in a penny for every dollar spent in Dade County. With that, you can offset some transportation issues. Our county budget for Billy Massengale's road crew is around $680,000. If we could take a third of his road crew budget off, we could lower everybody in this room's property taxes by rolling back your millage rate. Now, if we roll back your millage rate to, say, a mil, it would save you $50 on a $100,000 house. You would have to spend $5,000 in sales tax to pay that $50 back to the county. You'd have to buy milk, bread, your power bill. $5,000 is a lot of money to spend on groceries and utilities in Dade County. And if you live in Wildwood in New England, you probably don't spend $3,000 a year. Maybe just your power bills and utilities. So like I say, if you have to pick vote for me or vote for the T-Splosh, vote for the T-Splosh.
Mr. Johnson?
As far as the T-Splosh goes, I'm personally going to be voting no for the T-Splosh, mostly because everybody that I've talked to, it's a fear thing. They said, if you don't vote for the T-Splosh, we're going to raise your property taxes. That's not what I've ever heard at a commission meeting, but that's what everybody assumes. They're going to vote for this because of fear. Now, as far as the T-Splosh tax goes, it's a fair tax. But the people of Dade County have already spoken once about this T-Splosh, and they said no. So putting it back on the ballot should not change what has already been voted on and what the people of Dade County have already voted. So my vote would be no.
And Mr. Scott?
I voted no back in November. I plan to vote no on the T-Splosh again. And it's the lack of information. Here's the list. I went to the meeting today. They're supposed to have a list out already of those projects that are going to be funded with it. But that goes without saying, they had the S-Splost. There's still stuff from 14 years ago that have not been done with S-Splost. I do believe the T-Splost would be fair if you put the list out and then turn around and spend the money for that, for our roads. I'll agree with that.
If the T-Splost passes, what are your priorities concerning the additional money, and what would you propose doing with the money currently in the county budget that's used for transportation, Mr. Pittman?
Priority will be to roll the millage rate back. And if you roll the millage rate back, you're not doing anything with the money that's currently in the budget. You're rolling the millage rate back, giving the homeowners a break on their taxes. Every vehicle that stops in Wildwood or stops in Rising Fund, fills up with gas, goes in and get a Coke, candy bar, they don't have to pay T-Splost penny on their gas, but everything they buy while they're in the store they do, and that adds up in a hurry. So you take the money from T-Splost, which could possibly offset a third to half the county road crew budget, plus help pave some roads, and you alleviate some of the burden on the taxpayers of the county. So it's actually a win-win. Now, if it was voted in and the commission reneged and didn't roll any property tax back, then that would not be a win-win. Your taxes will go up a penny on everything you buy except gas. So it just depends on how the commissioners, whether it's one of these guys, me, or one of the three that were up here previously, how they vote to spend the money.
Mr. Johnson?
Well, if the T-Splosh passed, it would be great to roll back taxes, but that's been promised before on the other Splosh when they received the money that they were going to roll back taxes, and it never did. There may have been a time where we didn't raise taxes as fast, but they never rolled them back before, and I don't know. It comes down a lot to a trust issue when it comes to the T-Splosh. If you don't trust the people in office, that they're going to do what they say they're going to do, like roll back taxes, because Mr. Rumley did say that he was going to roll back taxes at the last commission meeting if this passed. If you trust him, I guess then we'll roll back taxes. If you don't trust him, I think there's a lot of trust issues with all the commissioners, and not particularly everything, maybe just the commission itself, that things have been told and promised in the past that haven't been delivered. And that's a lot of the people's fear. Like I said, T-Splosh comes to a fear. If I don't pass T-Splosh, I'm going to get my property taxes raised. That's what everybody's thinking, and that's what everybody's talking about. So they're going to pass it because they don't want their property taxes to go up, and that's just somebody holding you at ransom, and that's not fair.
Mr. Scott?
Repeat the question.
If the T-Splosh passes, what are your priorities concerning the additional money? And what would you propose doing with the money currently in the county budget that's used for transportation?
Use the T-Splosh money, I guess I would have to refer to Mr. Pittman on that. If there's extra money, roll the taxes back on the owners to get it off of them. That's simple.
And Mr. Hartline?
Repeat that question.
If the T-Splosh passes, what are your priorities concerning the additional money, and what would you propose doing with the money that is currently in the county budget earmarked for transportation?
Okay. I'm not going to stand up here and say that if I get in that I'm going to roll back your millage rate. Pretty sure when you've got a raise 3 years down the road, you didn't say, hey, take 10 cents back on it. They're going to keep, in my opinion, the money's going to stay there. The money that's in the budget right now for transportation needs to stay in transportation. Them issues doesn't go anywhere. We still need to spend that money there. The extra money can go to more roads or better the roads elsewhere. But to stand up here and say, well, we're going to get this and we're going to roll this tax back, it's not a trust issue. I just don't see giving the money back. And if they do, it'll just be 2 years down the road and they're going to be wanting it back. So leave the money in the budget where it's at now, use the extra to do more improvements elsewhere in the county.
Mr. Johnson, we'll begin with you. Would you be in favor of continuing to fund, along with the City of Trenton and the Dade County Industrial Development Authority, a full-time person to work on retail and industrial development in the county?
I would be in favor of that. The industrial part of, I mean, we have a large factory sitting with nothing in it after Shaw moved out that we have not promoted or done anything that I know of. The companies that have come in, I'm talking like Gill. I know people that work at Gill. It's hard to make a living at Gill. You're not going to make a good living at Gill. It's just the same as Vanguard. We're doing fine on bringing in industries. Just the quality of those industries have not been up to par, and we need to do better at that. These industries that have come in, they are providing jobs, but it's not much above poverty level jobs. And that's where we need to make our improvements. Not that we need to bring a bunch of industries in, we need to bring better industries in.
Mr. Scott?
Yes, I'd be in favor of funding the full-time position to bring retail businesses and all that in here. I'll echo Mr. Johnson there. Make sure they're better paying jobs. Like they said, you make $10, $11 an hour. It is hard to raise a family on that. Mom and dad's got to work. Someone needs to be home raising the kids. That's one of the things that's wrong with our kids nowadays, when you got mom and daddy both out of the house. So that's all I got to say on that.
Mr. Hartline?
Repeat the question.
Would you be in favor of continuing to fund, along with the City of Trenton and the Dade County Industrial Development Authority, a full-time person to work on retail and industrial development in the county?
I would be in favor of it, as long as that person that is working the deals does not get a percentage of making the deal happen. If we're paying this person to look after our county on our behalf, he brings in something, he shouldn't be trying to make backdoor deals on the land or get a percentage off the sale of a piece of property. But as far as paying someone to do that, yes, I am in favor of that. But they don't need to be compensated elsewhere for doing that job. As far as the quality of companies that are coming in, not to say this to make it sound bad, but do we have the employees to be able to staff the jobs if they were higher paying jobs to come into this county? But I would pay someone to do that as long as they ain't getting extra money on the back end of it.
Mr. Pittman?
Yes, I'm in favor of funding the director as long as he's productive. I mean, Peter Cervelli has gone above and beyond. If you get someone that's stagnated in that position and doesn't seem to be showing any kind of incentive or going out and trying to drum up business, if you don't have any bites, you're using the wrong bait. So now a couple of things. I got a few minutes, I think. Property taxes on the T-Splosh. To my knowledge, no commissioner has said if this T-Splosh does not pass, property taxes are going up. This is an addition. This is money that's not there right now. What it could be used for is to offset some of your property taxes. But no, I have not heard that threat, and I've not made that threat. I see a couple of guys in the room that have probably voted a tax increase. Tommy may have, may or not have, and Larry Moore's back here. Voting a tax increase is extremely hard. A lot of people get out here and they act like we just sit in the back room and laugh about how much we're going to raise taxes next year. Everybody on that commission, I'm the youngest guy and I'm 47. The rest of them are pretty old. Our families live here. Our friends live here. I can't walk down the street. I can't go to the grocery store without seeing somebody I'm either kin to, I graduated with. It's not like we're wanting to raise taxes. I voted to raise taxes 3 times in 16 years. Now the other 13 times we've rolled taxes back. Guess which one you hear a lot more feedback from? When you raise taxes, you hear it. If you don't accept the growth and you roll the millage rate back, it saves everybody in the county $10, $15. Nobody notices it. But if you raise taxes, they notice it. And they noticed us a whole lot more than the school board. I should have ran for school board. So,
the Dade County Commission has been in a restoration phase on the old Dade County Courthouse. What are your feelings on the restoration? And are you in favor of seeing it completed and occupied? And we'll start with Mr. Scott.
I don't know exactly how much money they've spent on it, but I would say that if they've spent a lot of money on it, it's close to being completed, then go ahead and complete it, put what you're going to put in there, and get the money back off of it.
Mr. Hartline?
Repeat that.
The Dade County Commission has been in a restoration phase on the old Dade County Courthouse. What are your feelings on the restoration, and are you in favor of seeing it completed and occupied?
First part of that is, he said, what is my feelings about that? My feelings is they're a day late and $1 short. We've tore every other historical building down in Trenton. I know that's the last one. It's in the middle of it's in the middle of the road. But how much money are we spending on it? Is it private donations? And are they ever going to complete it? I mean, they've been working on it for how many years now? 2 years? Seems to be a very slow process. If it's not my tax dollar going into it, let them hammer on. I don't care. But if we're spending my money on this project and we worked on it for 2 years, and are we close to being complete? No. Okay.
The reason is, in 2002, there was a study done, and it said that it would cost $1.5 million. We raised $50,000 and $250,000.
Okay. Well, that said, that what'd you say, 1.2? 1.2. How much of my tax dollar is going to have to go to that?
Well, you might get a little bit. It might be a little faster if we pass the T-SPLOST, and so we can actually.
Okay, so with that said, my tax dollar going into it, no private funding, no outside help. No, I am not for finishing it.
Mr. Pittman, let's get us back on track here.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, most all the money as of late, since the judicial building's been built, everything that's going into the courthouse is SPLOST funded or private donations. It's a long way to go. There's a lot to preserving a historic building. Philip's correct. A lot of the landmarks in that area have been thrown away. We had the old McBriar house. We were going to move the old McBriar house up here near where the administrative building is now, but there was a situation that was out of our control, and that did not happen. So yeah, Philip's right. A lot of the when you think of Dade County, you do think of the courthouse in the middle of the square. What's the price tag on it? I don't know. We have completed the elevator project. We're doing some landscape. Mr. Scott said as long as we can get the money back after it's finished by renting it out, he don't have a problem with it. We'll never get all the money back that's been put into it. There's not in our lifetime, maybe not in anybody's lifetime. It's a matter of pride. It'd be like changing the high school mascot from the Wolverine to Fox. So it's just it's what you feel is important. For everything that you feel is the most important thing in Dade County, somebody feels like it's the stupidest thing in Dade County. For everything you think is the stupidest thing in Dade County, somebody else thinks this is the most important. And these guys, if elected, one of these guys will learn that real quick. So,
Mr. Johnson,
if it's got to come out of taxpayer money, it would have to be something in a surplus. This is not something that we should take up special taxes for or anything else like that. I don't know I'm sure they've checked into all the historical society grants and things like that. But to be honest with you, $1.2 million for a building historically is awesome, but is there going to be any functionality to it when it gets complete? Are we going to move everything out of the new building we just built and put it back in there? No. It's just going to be a historical building, and that's beautiful, but I can't support that out of taxpayer dollars.
We'll begin with Mr. Hartline on this question. Have you researched the county budget And are you in favor of current spending levels? What are specific areas you feel need increasing or decreasing?
I have not researched it. I'm not a commissioner yet, so there's not a whole lot of point in me doing a whole lot of research into that because I can't change it. With what was said with the school board race, if 70% of our tax dollars goes to the school board, I'm going to say they're probably doing a pretty good job. I paved a 800-foot road with a 50-foot cul-de-sac and curbed it. It cost me $40,000. So for them to keep up our roads like they do and keep the stuff bush hogged and clean, yeah, I'm pretty sure they're doing a good job with their spending.
Mr. Pittman?
I'm totally in favor of the current budget. I helped pass it last year, and we're working on passing it this year. Every year, we start out with budget hearings, all the constitutional officers, all the departments. We had a meeting with the library today. They come over, and we'll look at what they had last year and see if they need any more money or if they can roll their spending back or if they think they're going to bring in more money. It's an ongoing process. It'll last from now till we pass the millage rate in June. 80% of our budget, 80% of the county's budget is employees. And when I read on the internet that the county commissioners are just frivolously spending money, they need to start cutting their waste. Well, the waste is employees. And like I said earlier, everybody thinks something's important. We could cut out the rec, we could cut out the ball fields. We could subcontract them out to an outside source. That's a possibility. Would they take as much pride as Dade County employees do? We don't know. We could cut off the senior vans. The senior vans is one of the few things that nobody has ever approached me about shutting down. Now this library, everybody look around this library. I've been cussed out over this library several times. Go to the four fields, that's a hotbed. Transfer station. Everybody gets mad at you at the transfer station. So, like I say, every department we have, and that's just, we're not over a whole lot of departments. People think we're over the whole county. We're not. We're over a very few departments, and our budgets are 80% employees and benefits, the rest functioning day to day. So, yeah, I'm totally in favor of the budget. I think we put forth a lot of effort and time into the budget and take it very seriously.
Mr. Johnson?
I think the budget in Dade County, I think they're doing as good a job as they can right now. And as long as they're going through every year and checking people and spending the money on the right things, even checking the departments that they do give money to, but check and see that they're spending money and prioritizing their purchases right, I don't have a problem with the budget.
Mr. Scott?
I looked into the budget. It's a bunch of numbers. I know my checkbook, but trying to look at all those numbers and figure them out, I'm about lost. That's disappointed. So, but I did see in there where a few weeks ago, it was in a paper, where they purchased 2 patrol vehicles with SPLOST funds. But then our sheriff's driving a new pickup truck, to my understanding. So why could the patrol cars have not come out of his budget? Other than that, I think for the most part they do a good job with the budget.
Mr. Pittman, we'll begin with you. What's your opinion on term limits for commissioners?
I think if you've served 20 years, they should build a statue of you. That's what I think. Man, I've been elected 5 times. The first 2 elections I served 2 years because the form of government changed, and I've been elected 5 times. One time was unopposed, and I recommended to Lamar. I said, "This is the way everybody should run, is unopposed." I've also had a lot of good guys run against me. And last year, Nathan Baker said, "I'm thinking about running if you don't run." And I said, "Nathan, run. Give people a choice." These guys, I commend them. It's a lot better to get out and try to play quarterback as to be the Monday morning quarterback on Facebook saying these guys should be doing this, they should be doing that. And when your district's available to run, I don't see your name on the list. These guys stepped up, and I have no problem at all anybody running against me. Because 4 of us here, there's more than likely going to be a runoff. I may be voting for one of these 3 guys. and I'm going to get to know them, the ones I don't already know pretty good. So I think term limits, you have them every 4 years. You get voted out I was told when I first ran, it's a lot easier to get voted out than it is to get voted in. So the more people you make mad, the harder it is for you to get reelected. I've been reelected 5 times, so I'm pretty proud of it.
Mr. Johnson?
I think, like any job, I think when you're on that job over an amount of time and your accountability is up and down, you can get complacent. So sometimes, yes, I can understand the need for term limits, but like I said, you got an election every 4 years. So if people don't think you're doing a good job, they can go for somebody else, and sometimes there is nobody else, like you said. Mm-hmm. So what happens then? If you have a term limit, he can't run again, nobody else is running. They just cut it down to 4. So there's pros and cons to both. And I think the elections would be fine on term limits. If you don't like what that person's doing, then elect somebody else.
Mr. Scott?
I don't think we need term levels at this level. Like you just said, if you don't have anybody, if you got term limits, nobody runs, then who's going to take the job? Higher level offices, yes, you should have term limits. But if you're not doing a good job, voters can vote you out. That's it.
Mr. Hartline?
I'm a performance-based type person. If you don't perform, you'll get voted out. So I figured I wouldn't have the term limits. I would have the elections. So if you don't perform, the county can vote you out, or in an election, you can be voted out.
You gentlemen will still have time to make a 1-minute closing statement. Before we do that, though, our last question for each of you. 3 best reasons that make you the best candidate, and we'll begin with Mr. Johnson.
I think I came to this thinking that the best thing I can do is listen to the people. The people are the ones that elect me, and not necessarily the loudest people or the most influential people, but all the people. And that's what I want to run on. And I've been in this community for a long time. I've served this community in many different ways. I think that I would love to continue to serve this community for a lot longer. So, and like I said, I have 4 generations of my family here, and this is my community.
Give us 3 reasons, Mr. Scott.
Integrity, integrity, integrity. But I think, I've been a volunteer fireman for 12 years. I love serving the community. I'm retired. I can devote my attention to this job if elected.
Mr. Hartline?
The first thing is honesty. Sometimes the truth hurts. So if you wear your feelings on your shoulders and you don't really want to know the truth, don't ask me, because I will tell you. Second thing is I'm hardworking. I'm very dedicated to our community. I love it here, and before I decided to run, I had 3 options: just keep my mouth shut and go along with what was going on, move, or get involved. I chose to get involved. The last thing is I want to better our community. It's not bad. It's a great place. I hate negativity. And I think that's a lot of the problem in the county right now is just negativity from different parties. Cut it out. Let's be a community again and make it better.
Mr. Pittman.
Well, I guess one of the main reasons would be experience. I've got more experience than these guys. I'm not saying that I'm smarter than any of them. I just wore the shoes. That if elected, they would probably learn just as well as I have. Another thing is honesty. I do try to be honest with people and tell them exactly what's going on. If I know there's a concern, when I go to a party, I don't walk in and say, "Hey guys, this is Commissioner Pittman, let's talk politics," because you don't get invited back to many more parties. If somebody calls me with a concern and wants to talk about it, I'll go out of my way. I'll take either their call if I'm at work or away from the county, or I'll go to their house and sit down or invite them over. Another thing is, I do care. I care about this county. Growing up here, been here my whole life. My whole family's here. So I do care. I don't want to see anything bad happen in the county. The tornadoes 2011 was the worst of times, and it was the best of times. The county was tore to pieces, but there was no arguing. Everybody came together. Everybody done exactly what they needed to do to help their neighbors out. We didn't ask if you're a Democrat, Republican, didn't ask any questions. Everybody just stepped up. That was a major blow to the county, and the commissioners, we done all we could do as elected officials and citizens, because there was a whole lot going on. So, that's three of the reasons that I feel like I would continue to do a good job.
We'll give each candidate now 1 minute for a closing statement. We'll start down on the far end with Mr. Johnson.
I think that I hope that you would vote for me, that I would listen to you, hear what you have to say, and apply it. I would try to find other ways besides raising taxes or possibly introducing new taxes. I would try to find other ways to make money in this county. And there's a lot of underutilized assets in this county that would produce money that would make up a lot of what we seem to need in more taxes. So if you elect me, I can and will find those ways to save you money without spending more, and just to raise money in assets we already have. And I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
We'll go in reverse order, Mr. Pittman.
Again, this is not Washington, D.C., folks. Just because we're elected politicians, don't mean we're all out to get the little man. We are the little man. When we raise taxes, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, our aunts, uncles, childhood friends, they hurt too. We never raise taxes in this county that we've done so unless it was the last resort. Right now, our county is in better financial shape than it's been in the 16 years I've been in office. We have $600,000 in bonds in the local banks. Haven't had that in years. In 2008, 2009 recession, it wiped out a lot of our fund balance, which if you guys get elected, you'll learn what that is. We're back up on that. I think the county's doing good, and if you got a good mechanic, you don't take your car to a different mechanic just because he's been around for 16 years. So I'm kind of like a trustworthy mechanic. Give me your vote on May 22nd, and I'll keep the car running.
Mr. Hartline?
If you like the way things is going now, like I said, I don't see nothing wrong that Scotty's doing, but if you want a new way of thinking, that's me. I'm an outside-the-box type thinker. I don't think we should go straight to the sales tax every time. I don't think we should go to the property tax every time. I own properties in 4 out of the 5 districts, so if you raise my millage rate, it affects me. I also have to buy equipment for my company. I'll probably make a purchase this year. That 1 cent increase will cost me over $1,000. So both sides, I'm looking at it because it affects me both ways. So if y'all are happy the way things are going, continue on with that. If not, I would appreciate y'all's vote and let me show you what I can do for y'all.
Mr. Scott?
I'll say my last name is Scott. I'm not connected to anybody. So, I'll separate from there. I have family sitting right there. But if I'm elected as your commissioner, I want to represent each and everybody. I don't care what district you're in. If you come to me with a problem, I want to be able to get a number, a name or somebody to be able to help you. I had problems with the sheriff that was just sentenced on probation, and I asked for help with that, and I got none. Thank you.
Thank to you, gentlemen, each of you, for taking time out to be here this evening and taking part in the candidate forum. We'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll visit with the candidates for the judgeship on the Superior Court of the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. Decision 2018 continues on KWN-TV.
Innovation and quality. Two things you don't normally hear about in a recruitment ad, but you'll hear a lot about innovation and quality when you join the team at Vanguard National Trailer. Vanguard is an industry leader in the production of dry van trailers and composite plate trailers.
And right now, Vanguard National Trailer is hiring energetic and hardworking team members to be assemblers and welders, as well as industrial maintenance for first shift openings.
And you'll work a full 40-hour week in 4 days, which means 3-day weekends. And overtime is available. Working at Vanguard National Trailer has other great benefits too, like paid holidays, paid vacation, medical, dental, vision, and life insurance, plus a 401k plan.
Full-time work, 3-day weekends, available overtime, and great benefits. That's Vanguard National Trailer.
Fill out your application today. Vanguard National Trailer is an equal opportunity employer.
Apply in person today. Starting pay $10 to $14 an hour, depending on position. Vanguard National Trailer Corporation, Highway 11 North, turn beside the Premier Healthcare Center on Vanguard Drive.
At First Southern State Bank, putting you first is our priority. First with convenience, with branches in 6 great communities: Fort Payne, Rainsville, Scottsboro, Higdon, and our Stevenson office, now recently enlarged and remodeled. First with our friendly, experienced staff, always helpful and ready to serve. And first with our mobile on-the-go banking. Our mobile app is fantastic, user-friendly, secure, and free. So whether it's online or in person, you're our first priority at First Southern State Bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Decision 2018 on KWN-TV. I'm Chris Goforth. We're glad to have you with us. We're at the Dade County Public Library for our candidate forum. We move on and we get ready to welcome in the candidates for judgeship in the Superior Court of the Lookout Mountain Judicial Circuit. They are Raph Van Pelt, the incumbent, and Melissa Heiss. This is a nonpartisan position. Thanks to both of you for being here. We'll give each candidate now 2 minutes to make some opening comments, and we'll begin with Judge Van Pelt.
Good evening. Appreciate being here. I was born in Somerville, grew up in Chattooga County, a rural part of Chattooga County. My father was a mechanic. He was a small businessman, ran his own garage in Somerville. My mother was a housewife. She stayed home with me, gardened, did the animals, did the house, did all the things that housewives do. I am the father of 2 children. I'm proud to say that I have 2 kids, Nick and Kathleen. My son Nick went into the Air Force straight out of high school. My daughter Kathleen is a lawyer here in this circuit. My son is now in the North Dakota Air Guard. He is a deputy sheriff in Minot, North Dakota, and is a weekender. My daughter is a special assistant attorney general. I'm proud to say that both my children chose jobs that involve protecting the public. I am here tonight to tell you a little bit about myself. I was an assistant district attorney. I've been in private practice. I was elected your district attorney in 1988, and then I was appointed to this job in 1996. I'm here tonight asking for your vote to continue to be your Superior Court judge.
Mrs. Heiss.
My name is Melissa Gifford Heiss, and I am a lifelong resident of Walker County. I grew up in Chattanooga Valley in High Point. My mother's here tonight, and she was born and raised at New Salem. I have deep roots here in Dade County, and a lot of family, as you all probably have seen, and around the county helping me campaign. Grew up, like I said, in Walker County. I went to Mercer University, got my undergraduate degree, got my law degree at Cumberland School of Law at Sanford in Birmingham. I came back home and went into private practice with Watson and Dana. And then I worked as a Superior Court clerk under Superior Court clerk judges prior to Judge Van Pelt's tenure on the bench. I then started a nonprofit agency called 4 Points that served the 4 counties and doing services that are ancillary to the criminal justice system. We worked with families in crisis, domestic violence families. After leaving 4 Points after 15 years, when I found that it was time for me to move on and let somebody else take that over, I went full-time in the magistrate court. From there, I went back into private practice with Palmer Law Firm down in Somerville, and that's where I am now. I still remain an associate magistrate judge for Walker County, but that's a little bit about me.
Welcome to each of you. Judge, we'll begin with you. 2 minutes. Can you give us an overview of what you feel a Superior Court judge's responsibilities are?
Well, we do a lot of things. Here in Dade County, we do anything that takes a jury trial. We don't have a state court here, so we do anything that anybody wants a jury trial on. Superior Court's responsible for felony criminal cases. We handle those throughout the circuit. We do basically domestic relations cases, things that involve property. There are certain cases that can only be done in Superior Court, like divorces. There are some things we share jurisdiction with, like medical malpractice or car wreck cases, but we do quite a few of those. Superior Court is a trial court. We are the ones who, either by sitting with out a jury and making decisions based on the evidence ourselves, or with sitting with the jury, we make the decisions that then get possibly passed up to appellate courts.
Ms. Heiss.
Everything he said is correct. Our jurisdiction in Superior Court is given by the Constitution and the legislature by statute. We also handle the equity part of cases as well. When you've got writ of mandamus and those kind of things, that's another component to the court system. But generally, in a nutshell, Judge Van Pelt covered it.
Ms. Heiss, we'll begin with you with this question. What are the current qualifications to become a Superior Court judge in the state of Georgia?
There's an age requirement as well as a years of service requirement. I believe it's 7 years for the practice of law, and you do have to be a lawyer for this court. Other inferior courts, you don't necessarily have to be a lawyer to be a judge.
Judge?
That's basically it. There's a residence requirement. You have to have lived in the circuit. You have to have practiced law for 7 years. Other than that, there aren't any particular qualifications that there's constitutional and statutory requirements, but those are those. There are no requirements beyond those.
The current criminal justice system seems to be overwhelmed with a great number of drug cases and repeat offenders. As a Superior Court judge, what can you do going forward to help lower those numbers? Judge, we'll begin with you.
Well, I don't think we're overwhelmed here in Dade County. Judge House keeps an office here. He takes care of the day-to-day here. I think Dade County is current. We have a lot more other cases in Walker County and Catoosa County and Chattooga County. Drug cases are something that are always going to be with us. People continue to get addicted. That's something that has to be dealt with. I am a big believer in treatment. If people can afford to go to treatment, either through insurance or maybe their family helping them, I want them to go get treatment if that's what they need. Now, we have state facilities called RSATs, Residential Substance Abuse Treatment Programs. I send people to those. Those are run by the state. Quite frankly, we don't have enough of them.
Ms. Heiss?
I disagree with Judge Van Pelt. I think that our drug problem is overwhelming us by quite a lot, and I think that our governor and our legislature are also very well aware that this is an overwhelming problem. In that, the governor, when he came into office in his first term, put a council together to study and to do criminal justice reform. They have issued a report that goes into great detail about the different reforms that need to be made, both in probation and in the court system in general. One of those things is the accountability courts that they are implementing throughout the state. Our circuit is one of the last ones to implement these accountability courts. We do have a drug court that's just been started by Judge Thompson, and that is going to address the drug issues. We also will be having a parental accountability court that Judge House will oversee, and I understand that a mental health court is coming hopefully in early 2019. I myself would like to see a veterans court started if I'm elected. But we are the 8th highest in probationers in the nation. Our recidivism rate is high, and I think that we need to do more in doing our sentencing and our supervision so that we are addressing individual problems instead of trying to do the same cookie cutter thing that we've been doing all this time, which is caused our taxes to be raised because we're incarcerating too many people and we're not really truly affecting the problem.
listeners and viewers of WKWN were invited to be able to email in questions that they had for our candidates tonight. And one question that we received asked if you have any political affiliation with national organizations such as the ACLU or the NRA. Ms. Heiss, will begin with you.
I don't have any national affiliations with any groups. I never really have, and then my tenure as a magistrate judge would have precluded me from that. So I don't have any affiliations.
Judge Van Pelt.
Well, the Code of Judicial Conduct has very strict things about that. You're not supposed to be affiliated with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. You're not supposed to be involved with an organization that may come in front of you or involved in litigation. A judge isn't supposed to get involved in one of those organizations. I am a member of the Chattanooga Hiking Club and the Benton Mackay Trail Association, and if that's bad, I apologize.
Do you believe the judgeships in Superior Court in Georgia should have term limits, Judge Van Pelt?
Appellate court judges have term limits. If you get past 75, they take away your retirement. The legislature's in charge of that. I agree with what some of the other people here said. There's this thing called elections that are term limits. The legislature statewide, the whole bunch, not just Mr. Deffenbaugh here, makes the statutes that control Superior Court judges. They would be the ones responsible for doing that. Like I said, there's this thing called an election.
Mrs. Heiss?
I think that's interesting that that's come up tonight, and I've listened to all the candidates on that, and I never thought of term limits for judges because we just don't think of it that way. You think you get into a judgeship and you remain until you retire, and it's kind of sort of set up that way. But I've been knocking on a lot of doors in 4 counties, and I've been hearing a lot about term limits. And that's, as Judge said, there's not anything that we personally can do about that as Superior Court judges or even as Supreme Court or Court of Appeals. That's a legislative issue. However, I'm thinking differently about term limits. I myself personally, as I said in my opening, I started an agency called 4 Points, and I left it after 15 years because I thought it was time for somebody else to come in and to take it to a new level and to do different things with it. It wasn't growing anymore. I wasn't growing anymore. So from that perspective, yes, I think that term limits are very healthy in a lot of ways. Elections can serve as term limits, I guess, but I'm not necessarily opposed to term limits for any office because of the idea that you need new people coming in with new ideas and fresher ideas to keep you moving and to keep you from getting stagnant.
Are you satisfied with the method used to select the chief judge of the circuit? If so, tell us why. And if not, likewise, tell us why. Ms. Heiss?
As far as I know, that is a legislative by statute. It's based on tenure, is my understanding. And among our 4 judges, and I practice in other circuits too. I practice in a lot of other circuits around us. And it seems to have been effective to this point, so I don't really have a problem with that.
Judge Van Pelt?
Well, I got sued over this. I think most of the people in this room know about that. I think that most circuits, most metro circuits, most bigger circuits now elect chief judges. I think that's what it ought to be. There is a local act that was passed a long time ago, if we're talking about term limits, that put in place what we have now that I think should be modified.
As an attorney, what type of cases have you represented before the court? Judge Van Pelt?
I have done everything from, I have been a defense lawyer, I have been a prosecutor as an assistant DA and a DA, I've sat as a judge. I've done everything from jury trials on speeding tickets to jury trials in death penalty cases. I've done medical malpractice jury trials, I've done all other kind of civil stuff. Most of what I have done numbers-wise is non-jury things with domestic relations kind of cases or civil cases. I have the experience of doing very complicated litigation, I think more so than any other judge that's sitting on the bench right now in this particular circuit.
Ms. Heiss?
I have primarily, the majority of my experience has been in family law, working in juvenile court, also doing divorces, modifications, child support, and adoptions. In my last couple of years, well, even at the beginning of my career and what I'm doing now, I've done both defense and personal and plaintiff work in personal injury, do real estate and do property. I do all kinds of other kinds of litigation. I do employment discrimination. One case I tried most recently, it was a whistleblower case under the state statute down in Bartow County, and got a sizable award for my client in a pretty uphill battle there. But basically every kind of case that we have, workers' comp, I've done Social Security, I've done a little bit of everything.
What makes you the better candidate for the superior judgeship? Ms. Heiss?
I think what I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, I think that there comes a time when you need something different, you need some change, you need to think outside the box. My experience having ran a nonprofit may seem a little contrary to this job. However, with some of the changes that are coming out of Atlanta through the governor's office, as well as the administrative office of courts with their accountability courts, and where we're going with criminal justice reform, I think that I have the ability to help get these programs off the ground, to get them stable, to make sure that they're done correctly. I also have been working for people for the last 25 years of my career. I have been representing clients and working with families one-on-one this entire time, and I've made my campaign a very grassroots campaign, wanting to listen to people and hear what they're saying, and then applying those facts to the law. And that's really what it boils down to. A good judge can have the right temperament to apply the facts to the law, and I think I have that temperament and I have that prior experience working with people to be able to do it correctly.
Judge?
Well, I have spent the better part of my adult life in courtrooms. I was admitted to practicing law in 1980. I've defended people. I've done divorces. I've been through a divorce myself. I know what that's like. I have had the experience of being on all sides of any kind of litigation you can think of. I think I bring that life experience to all this, and I think I am fair. I think that every lawyer in this circuit knows I will sit and listen until you're done talking. And I will hear people out, and then I will make a decision based on the evidence and what the law is. And that's what you have to do, is base it on the law.
It's time for closing comments. You'll have 1 minute. Mrs. Heiss, you're up first.
As I've been campaigning, I have been so struck by everyone that I have talked to about their concern for what goes on in our court system, the need for transparency, the need for fairness, the need for listening. And the one phrase that everybody hands out campaign things, and so I've been handing out copies of our Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And so what strikes me about this whole process is that this is we the people. This is your court system and your time to have your voice heard about what you want in your court system. And I'm asking you to look at my experience and to talk to me and to choose me on May 22nd. So thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Judge?
Well, let me tell a quick story. I was hiking in the Smokies once, fell in a creek and broke a kneecap, and was in a leg extender for 6 weeks. I didn't take a day off from work. I sat in a courtroom with my leg propped up, doing my job. I was here in court in Dade County this morning working. I'm here tonight humbly asking you to let me keep working for you. Thank you.
Thanks to each of you for being with us this evening. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll have the candidates for the Georgia State House of Representatives, District 1 seat, as Decision 2018 continues on KWN-TV.
Yes.
Delivering top-quality primary health care locally. We are Northeast Alabama Health Services. With 7 locations, there's one near you. Scottsboro, Section, North Sand Mountain and Higdon, Skyline, Woodville, Fife, and Fort Payne. We accept Medicare, Medicaid, and of course your private insurance. If you're unemployed, low income, or have a high copay or deductible, you may also qualify for a reduced rate office visit as low as $16. Ask about our free medication program, and ladies, you may qualify for a free or reduced rate mammogram. Dental referrals for our patients with tooth removal and fillings for only $15. Putting your health concerns first, we're Northeast Alabama Health Services. Cervical cancer screenings now available at Northeast Alabama Health Services. When you need a licensed plumber, call Stacy Ledwell and the staff at Mr. Reuter in Scottsboro. Mr. Reuter provides your home or business with advanced solutions using high-tech equipment. Our commitment to customer satisfaction shines through in our personalized service. When you schedule an appointment, our professionals will dedicate time to explain the work that has to be done. Our staff will give you upfront pricing, so you'll know exactly what's involved before any work begins. We even pump septic tanks and do new construction on houses. Fully licensed, bonded, and insured, Mr. Reuter in Scottsboro. Call Stacy Ledwell today to set up an appointment at 256-574-4710.
Welcome back to Decision 2018 on KWN-TV. I'm Chris Goforth. We are at the Dade County Public Library for our candidate forum tonight. And our last group of candidates we introduce is for the Georgia State House of Representatives, District 1. They are John Deffenbaugh, the incumbent, and Colton Moore, both running as Republicans. Thanks to both of you gentlemen for being here. We'll give you each 2 minutes for your opening comments. We'll begin with Representative Deffenbaugh.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for having us here, and I know the hour is late, so I'll try to make this maybe a little quicker. I came to Dade County over 50 years ago. It was a choice that I made to come here. And because of that choice, I met my wife, 2 boys who have since left here and gone to the West. But I have served the community in many ways. I'm a church member. I have served as deacons and elders. I have got 25 years retirement from the Navy Reserve. I've worked for the same company for 50 years, and I've been doing this for 6 years and wish to continue.
Mr. Moore?
Yes, my name is Colton Moore. I'm a lifelong resident of Dade County, Georgia. I graduated from Dade County High School in 2012. Went on to the University of Georgia to study political science and international affairs. While I was there, I studied under one of the best professors of legislative politics, Mr. Charles Bullock, and I've always had a passion for government. And the reason why I'm running is because I believe our Georgia government and the executive branch has gotten too big. And the best way to check and balance that is through a House representative. And the House representative, by the nature of design, is closest to the people. Today, I feel like the state government tells teachers how to teach, we tell developers how to develop, and we tell farmers how to farm. And the only way that's going to make any difference in that is to take someone in the legislature that has the ability to check and balance the executive branch. And Deffenbaugh was courteous enough to invite me down to the State House, and I was even further disappointed as I got there on the last day, and as the lawmaking process was supposed to begin and start at 10 o'clock in the morning, it was about 10:40 before things got rolling. Then at the end of the day, bills started rushing in. And the clerk sounded about like a cattle auctioneer as he was reading what the bills were to be passed. At midnight, when the Georgia Constitution says that all lawmaking is supposed to stop, 20 minutes later, 2 more bills come across from the Senate. A person stands up and says, "I'd like to pass this because it's going to help save kids' lives." Well, obviously, who wants to kill kids? No one. And the bill passed. Then another bill comes in. Person stands up and says, "I sponsored this originally. I asked that you pass it." It passed. No one bothered to read the changes that were made in the Senate. So I'm running for office, hopefully to be an objector to the status quo that seems to be going on down in Atlanta, and also to be not a person that wants to make law and more bureaucracy, but someone to dismantle it.
Representative Deffenbaugh, we'll begin with you. Just a reminder, you have 2 minutes to answer each question. Tell us what you believe a state representative's responsibilities are.
I think the first responsibility is, like Coulter said here, is to be close to the community of which you're serving. And that means that you help people who need help. You know, the biggest thing that we do sometimes is make laws, but then people have to adhere to them. And sometimes those laws are hard to adhere to. There's people who need a birth certificate for certain things. They weren't born in a hospital. They don't have a birth certificate. So you have to help them work through that, through the red tape of government. And that's what I feel is one of my major purposes in this office. We do make bills. I have made some bills, but that's the main thing is constituent service.
Mr. Moore?
The state representative's job is to be a representative for the people they represent in the lawmaking process. From time to time, that means helping the people to create a bill that's going to better serve them. Other times, it's to argue against a bill that maybe is coming in from Atlanta or somewhere else in the state to represent the people's here and their interests. Too oftentimes, though, I think the biggest part of the legislature is to be a counter to the executive. And too often we see policy be made and without any view of the ramifications of it, particularly when it comes to education. 51% of Georgia's budget goes to education, so really a state representative in some regard is just a state school board member to delegate that budget. And what I see today is a lot of wasteful spending on bureaucracy. A recent study came out that said that they surveyed 53,000 teachers in the state of Georgia. And 66% of those teachers said that they would either unlikely or very unlikely recommend the job of teaching to a graduate. So the reasons they mentioned was because of mandated testing, also that their voices weren't being heard, and that they had to subscribe to a report card about their performances, and which leads them disincentivized to discipline children or even to fail students.
Our next question will be slightly different for each of you, and Mr. Moore, we're going to begin with you. Do you feel any legislation passed in the Georgia House in the past 4 years has a direct benefit on Dade County?
You know, that's hard to say. You know, typically when you see politicians in the state of Georgia, they say Georgia is the #1 state to do business in. But what I see as a young and upcoming business owner that it's pretty hard to do business in the state of Georgia. I brought in a container recently from Savannah, and after getting through all the bureaucracy, it took about 2 weeks to get that container from Savannah, Georgia to Dade County. And I don't know how we can convince businesses to come into our community when we can't give a solution to supply chain. You know, Georgia is lucky enough to have the largest container port in the entire country. And I don't know how District 1 is really benefiting from that. So, you know, there are a lot of big issues, and I can't think of one that had a specific impact, beneficial impact for Dade Countyans or Walker Countyans.
This question now for you, Representative Deffenbaugh. Have you introduced any legislation in the Georgia House in the past 4 years that has had a direct benefit on Dade County?
There could be several or couple different issues. One was the distracted driving law that passed this year. It was signed by the governor, at least that's my understanding at this point, which helped teach children that are 16, 15, 16 in driver training to not to be distracted with cell phones, not to be just misoriented while driving. Second one was I passed unanimously a resolution that's going to the President and to the Congress now for services rendered to the military people. Whenever we send a person to basic training, they learn how to kill, how to maim things, how to blow things up. And at the end of that time, they come back and they say, "Oh, you're feeling okay. Yes, okay, you can go. If you have any trouble, go see the VA." But my resolution strongly urged them to spend some time at the end of that cycle to get them in better shape so there's not people killing themselves, there's not as much drug abuse, there's not the post-traumatic stress issues. There's all kind of issues, family issues, that can be dealt with before they're discharged, not after and given to the VA.
What are the top 3 things you feel are facing the state of Georgia and need to be addressed by the State House? Representative Deffenbaugh.
Okay, well, there's 3. Education, of course, is the biggest part of the budget, as Colton commented. And with that, this year, this cycle, there is an item in the budget that's called the Quality Basic Education. It's a formula for how the schools are funded. Since its inception, I think it was in the 60s or 65 or so, it has never been fully funded. This year, it is fully funded. And that amounts to, in Dade County, over $200,000. I can give you the exact pennies if you want, but it's $220-some thousand additional to whatever they standardly got from the state. They also have loosened the restrictions, less testing, less evaluations on the teachers, and they can just use the money in much more versatile ways than we have been in the past. So that's one, and he's raising his hand, so I guess I'm done.
Mr. Moore?
Well, I would say education, first and foremost, considering it is 51% of the budget. And education, I believe, is the only power that we have as a citizenry in America to advance ourselves economically and technologically. One of the things that came across our teachers in the last couple years was this report card that every school has and is publicly available. And any time a teacher disciplines a student, a negative mark goes on this report card. Anytime a teacher fails a student, a negative mark goes on this report card. So what does it do? It disincentivizes our teachers from disciplining students. It also disincentivizes our teachers from failing a student, making everyone else's high school diploma a little more worthless. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, I think, is transportation. I'm so sick and tired of Georgia. As I go across the entire globe, I look at Georgia as a very special state. We have the busiest airport in the world. We have the largest container port in the entire country. But yet, I sometimes think, too oftentimes, our government leaders think that we're stuck back in the 60s and we have to take a bunch of funding from the federal government. What are we, still post-Civil War? No, I think Georgia can be a Texas or a California or any other major state in the country, but it's going to take a state legislator to take on transportation, to take on our education system. And specifically here, on the third thing, one of the issues I want to address are the methadone clinics that are in our area. Georgia has more methadone clinics than any other state. The only other state that comes close is Florida. They only have a few less than we do, but they have twice the population. Now, one of my friends is a Fort Oglethorpe police officer. He writes more tickets than anyone else. And I often tell him, I say, well, you're obviously the person that most people dislike. But what he tells me he does is he stands there on the interstate about 3 o'clock in the morning and he sees all these tags from Ohio, Kentucky, and Tennessee, all of these riffraff folks coming in to get their drugs. And, you know, the methadone clinic is supposed to help society, but what does it do? It just brings in more bad people.
Mr. Moore, we'll continue with you with this next question. Do you believe the Georgia General Assembly needs to help fund security measures in Georgia schools in the wake of recent school shootings, and if so, at what level?
Absolutely. And, you know, at the level at which that spending is done, I think needs to be a little bit more minimal than what you might expect. I believe it's more the local school board's responsibility to handle that. No matter where you go in the state, we're going to have a lot of different opinions as to what school security looks like. You know, in more rural areas like this, obviously we heard earlier, the people were talking about putting guns in teachers' hands. Now, this is something that you're not going to get when you're down in the city of Atlanta. Obviously, they're not going to want that same thing. So I think locally on the school board, they should be addressing these issues. But no, I do think for hiring police officers and other security measures, I think there is a level of funding that can come from the state.
Representative Deffenbaugh.
Well, there is in this last budget that's going to take effect in July. There is almost $100,000 involved in the investigating and seeing how best the state and the local school people can work together to solve some of these problems. So it's not the state has been very active in education, just with the sight of it being 51% of our budget. So we are doing things that will make life safer and better for the education for the school system.
Would you be in favor of a bill that would allow school system employees who elect to be able to carry firearms on campus?
I think that would be a better process than just who want to and go to training. I think just like anything else, if you have a carry permit, there are certain things that don't allow you to have a carry permit. And so it's not just a teacher wants to, but it's a teacher qualified to as well. And that's up to the local school system.
Mr. Moore?
I would agree. I believe it's up to the local school system, and I know I don't have a problem with a teacher carrying a gun in a school. I think it has to be a very special person. I remember my high school government teacher was a former Marine and had done a lot of service overseas and was in some combat situations. I think he would probably be qualified to carry that gun. But then I can think of my English teacher, and I can say, well, I probably wouldn't trust her with the gun in the classroom.
The Dade County Board of Education passed a resolution for voters of the county to have the opportunity to vote to amend the 65 and 5 tax exemption. Any local legislation has to first be approved by the House and the Senate. How do you feel about letting local voters decide? And Mr. Moore, we'll begin with you.
I think that's exactly what needs to happen. You know, the 65 and 5 is a touchy subject. And most of the time, the people I talk to, they think it's black and white. Either you're 100% for it or you're 100% against it. But I think at the current status of it, it's not as good as it could be. And the reason why I believe that is because I'm a 24-year-old who pays property taxes and I don't have any kids. And there are people who come into our communities with great wealth, and they buy these luxurious properties, and they are over 65, and just based on their age, they are exempt from this tax. I think the moral objective of 65 and 5 is to help elderly folks, people who have contributed to our community. So I think the bill should come, and I think voters should decide to have a better means of collecting these funds. If I was to be elected representative, I would try to target that bill to address outsiders who come into our community and buy luxurious properties, who have the means to afford to pay more, because we're picking winners and losers here. And right now the losers are the people like me, the people who have families who are paying this tax, and the people who are winners are the people who are coming in, and you know, we're not just a retirement community. And you know, I want to make sure 65 and 5 will absolutely be protected if I'm elected, because I believe in general, obviously I don't want my grandmother to have to pay more in taxes. And I think the best solution is, you know, there's a lot of people in our community who are elderly, 65 and older, who have, you know, they've lived here their whole life, and they may have inherited a farm. It may be worth $300,000 or $400,000. But at the same time, those are the people who have contributed in our community and should be exempted. New people who come in, I believe, should have to own their property for at least 5 years before they are eligible for the exemption.
Representative Deffenbaugh.
Like I said, it's been an issue that's been tagged around a long time. 10, 15 years ago is when it first passed. There was a lot of innuendo that it wasn't clearly stated what was going to happen or how it was going to affect the schools, but it passed. There was an attempt a couple years ago to put it back on the ballot, and I talked with the school board and with the school members, and they had it set up so it would be removed. And I said I would not carry that bill that had everything removed because of the situation in our neighboring communities and other issues. I said that if you come up with a valid, legitimate bill that you wanted the people to vote on again, because this is going to be their last time to vote on it. If you bring up a bill that says everybody's gone, then it's not going to pass. And just like the T-Splosh bill coming back up again quickly, it is not going to pass. So even though I think it should, but so we have these other issues that it has to be a certain process to get things accomplished so it will pass or not pass. You know, I could have said, yes, we're going to put that on the bill and put it up there for vote, and it would have failed. What would that have accomplished? I asked them to figure out what the community was doing around them, what the other counties were doing, come up with something, and then I would present it. And that still stands. I haven't heard from them yet, but that still
Representative
stands.
Deffenbaugh, we'll stay with you for this next question.
Sure.
Do you feel the State House of Representatives is funding K-12 public schools in Georgia at an adequate level?
Oh, above adequate, actually, at this point. We have funded the QBC, or is that right? The basic educational, or the Quality Educational Society, or whatever it is. It's the funding formula. And that's the first time it's been funded since its existence. We have put in, for this time, we have 100% funded the pre-K program. We have put in additional monies for the retirement program of teachers. We have also, in the retirement system, have given them a COLA. It's not a very big one, but there's a COLA each year for them. So those are things that we really did extend and go beyond what normally was being done. So the one, I sit directly behind the committee chairperson for education, and he gets all kinds of praises and comments about what they have done this year, particularly for education. So,
Mr. Moore?
Yes, but we have to make sure that our teachers' retirement are funded. As I mentioned earlier, there's the statistic where teachers aren't recommending other teachers to come into play. What's keeping some of our best teachers in the classroom is the fact that they can count on a retirement, and that's something they've worked for. It's keeping those teachers who have been in that classroom for a long time and obviously have the most experience teaching our children, so we have to make sure that retirement is fully funded. But I do think we spend way too much money on bureaucracy. And there's a good friend of mine who I graduated from the University of Georgia with. Her whole ambition in life was to be an elementary school teacher. She graduated valedictorian of her high school class. She also graduated top of her class at the University of Georgia and taught at an inner city school. She cut her teeth in one of the worst schools in the state. Then she goes back to her local school district, and here comes a big old script that's laid down on her desk, and it is a script that she's to read every day to teach those kids. So if we're just going to give a script to our teachers, why don't we take some people out of the unemployment line and have them read the script?
The unemployment rates in Northwest Georgia are at an all-time low. Employers are still having a difficult time finding workers. As representatives, what do you feel you can do to help increase the available workforce in the area? Mr. Moore?
One of the things that recently our local high school went through was a thing called industry certification. And what it was a certificate that said that the students coming out of that program were industry certified, but really what it was 150 pages of bureaucracy that our teacher had to go through instead of teaching our kids to make them really industry certified. But there was a nice certificate, and the superintendent and everyone got to hold it up, and it looked really good for the papers. You know, it showed that our workforce was industry certified, but it really didn't help our children. If we're going to bring in a better workforce, we have to start with education. I talk to contractors around the community, and they say, we bring in a high school student, and we just need someone who can do some basic electrical skills or someone who can do some just basic welding. And that doesn't exist. I mean, we're not looking for the expert welder a lot of times. They're just looking for somebody who can take a grinder and, fix up a part or do some basic welding. And all that can be taught in the high schools. And, too often we fail our students and we fail society at bringing up the next generation of the best workforce.
Representative Deffenbaugh.
Well, I view it a little bit differently, but in high school, these certificates give the student a better chance of getting the job out of high school. The school also, in the junior college realm, has 17 courses that if the student maintains a C average, he can get a degree, whatever, two-year degree. And that can be anything from welding, if you want to go welding, It'll go with computers. It'll go with a lot of medical areas. So you can spend 2 years at no cost and have an associate degree, and you can go out and get a good job. But still, there's a lot of things in high schools that you can take the certificates, and they are better qualified than they are without them, because not everybody's going to go to school or college. So you have to have some way of bringing these wages up to a level of reasonability, at least for a starting level of a high school graduate. That doesn't mean he's going to make $80,000 a year, but it does bring him up so he's making more. And he also then has the opportunity of going to the 2-year program and making much more money. And selecting those particular subjects, the governor figures that 98% of the people can be placed in a job that is significantly based on his salary or what he should be getting doing that work. That can be carpentry, it can be cabinet making, it can be plumbing, it can be framing for houses, it can be 5 or 6 others. And whenever the committee was talking here about the commissioners, doing education, or the education talk, they all spoke of getting the training in high school so when they get out, they can be employed. And there was comment about Vanguard, there was comment about another company here in town that aren't paying as much. If we had better paying or better prepared students, they may have to leave temporarily, but after a while, this would be the place to come. It could be come back home. They would be more than qualified to do it and making significantly more money.
I'll remind each of you gentlemen, you'll still have 1 minute to make a closing remark. Before we get to that, tell us why you're the best candidate for state representative in this area, and we'll begin with Representative Deffenbaugh.
I would say duty, honor, and experience. With 20 years experience in the Navy, 50 years working in the community, and then the multiple years I've served as commissioner here, even one term, and then doing this, I think I'm best qualified in at least the experience area. I don't know that you would be any different as far as duty or honor, but I got you on experience. Just a little bit.
Mr. Moore?
Well, I've grown up in this community, and I've been very blessed to have a lot of opportunities. I got my CDL truck driving license when I was 18 years old. I've driven a dump truck to that facility Vanguard he's talking about and brought dirt into the facility. I've worked with cattle. There's a lot of cattle in the area. I've also been operating a bulldozer and an excavator for about as long as I can remember with my father. At the same token, I've been very blessed to have a dream job that I've never dreamed I'd have, and that is to be an international equipment auctioneer. It's allowed me to travel the world and gain a perspective and knowledge that few ever have the opportunity to receive. I think it's going to yield me a lot of benefit if I do get elected and get down to the House floor to negotiate with some of the bigger players in Atlanta and make sure that our voice here in Dade and Walker County is heard much louder than it has been.
Closing statement time, gentlemen. Mr. Moore, if you'll lead us off.
Well, like I just said, the reasons why I think I'm better qualified. But, if you want the same thing that you received in the last 6 years, if you want the current status quo that you see in Atlanta, then you know who to vote for. But if you're looking for something a little different, somebody with a little louder voice in Atlanta, someone who's not afraid to challenge the status quo and make some changes, or at least attempt to, because I certainly want to. And I'd appreciate your vote May 22nd. Thanks.
Representative Deffenbaugh.
Well, just one additional point that wasn't brought up too much in transportation right now in this area. We have, well, first of all, the state has put over $1 billion, fresh dollars, into transportation. Some of that money has come up here. we had the paving of 136, which wasn't going to be done for a while unless they got this money. The intersections that has been reworked here in the community would not have been there without that money. The bridge that was quickly changed going over 59 was a project that was brought here because of our work. I have been commissioned, or I have been members of the Transportation Committee. I've been members of the regulated industries, small business. I'm vice chair of banking, and I'm vice chair of Veteran Affairs, which is one of my prime areas, helping the veteran. So that's it.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being with us.
Thank you.
This concludes tonight's candidate forum, and again, we'd like to thank the staff and the management of the Dade County Public Library for the use of this facility, and thanks to the candidates, all the candidates that participated tonight. Remember, Dade County and the state of Georgia will hold a general primary and nonpartisan general election on May 22nd. If you intend to vote in this election, you will need to be registered to do so by April the 24th. Advanced voting and in-person absentee voting for this election begins on Monday, April 30th, with a mandatory Saturday voting date on May 12th. If you need to register to vote or have questions concerning anything throughout the election process, contact the Dade County Election Office at 706-657-8170. I'm Chris Goforth from KWN-TV. Thank you so much for being with us this evening.